Good evening. I'd like to welcome you to the May 12th regular meeting of the Atwater City Council. We are going to start with the invocation by Jonathan Miller, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance by Chief McEachin. So please stand.
Dear God and Father, we come before you this evening, Lord, and we ask your blessing upon this meeting, Lord. We just want everything we do here, Lord, to give honor to you. Just help us to give honor not only to you, but to those who protect our city, those who help our city needs, Lord. Just help everything that goes on in this meeting, Lord. Help the city council members to have wisdom in every decision they make, Lord. And in Jesus' name I pray, amen.
Okay, roll call, please.
Ambrose?
Here.
Kale?
Here.
Raymond? Here. Rochester?
Here.
Nelson?
Here.
We have a quorum.
Do we have any subsequent need items?
Mayor, there are none.
Can I get a motion to approve the agenda as posted?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Raymond, second by Rochester. Kale?
Yes.
Ambrose?
Yes.
Raymond?
Yes.
Rochester?
Yes.
Nelson?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay, so we have three ceremonial matters today. One, I'm going to present Chief McEachin with certificate for National Peace Officers Memorial Day, which is May 15th, and also National Police Week, which is this week. Followed by National Public Works Week. I present the proclamation to Public Works Director Justin Vinson. And after that, I'm going to give certificates of recognition to the 2024 Police Officer, Police Dispatcher, and Firefighters of the Year. I have to read it. Proclamation for National Police Week and Peace Officers Memorial Day. Whereas in 1962, the Congress and President of the United States designated May 15th as Peace Officers Memorial Day. And whereas law enforcement officers are the cornerstone of our community's safety, and whereas members of the Atwater Police Department and law enforcement agencies across the nation risk their lives each day in the line of duty to safeguard our neighborhoods. Whereas we remember and honor those officers who have made the ultimate sacrifice, laying down their lives in service to others, and we extend our deepest gratitude to their families and loved ones. And whereas the City of Atwater stands in strong support of our police officers and recognizes the importance of honoring their service, remembering their sacrifices, and showing appreciation for the difficult and often dangerous work they perform each day. Now therefore, I, Mike Nelson, Mayor of the City of Atwater, do hereby proclaim the week of May 11 through 17, 2025 as National Police Week, and May 15th, 2025 as Peace Officers Memorial Day in the City of Atwater. And I encourage all residents to join in recognizing and honoring the law enforcement officers who serve our community with honor, integrity, and commitment. Proclamation for National Public Works Week. Whereas public works professionals focus on infrastructure, facilities, and services that are of vital importance to sustainable and resilient communities and to public health, high quality of life, and well-being of the people of the city of Atwater. And whereas these infrastructure, facilities, and services could not be provided without the dedicated efforts of public works professionals. And whereas it is in the public interest for the residents, civic leaders, and children in the city of Atwater to gain knowledge of and maintain an ongoing interest in understanding in the importance of public works. And whereas the year 2025 marks the 65th annual National Public Works Week sponsored by the American Public Works Association. Now therefore, I, Mike Nelson, Mayor of the City of Atwater, do hereby designate the week of May 18 through 24 as National Public Works Week. I urge all residents to join with representatives of the American Public Works Association and government agencies in activities, events, and ceremonies designed to pay tribute to our public works professionals and to recognize the substantial contributions they make to protecting our national health, safety, and advancing quality of life for all. Today, I have the honor of representing the council and awarding the Certificate of Recognition to Nikki Mulligan of the Police Department. Nikki is a detective currently, and I'll let the chief.
Thank you. Come on up, Nikki. Nikki is one of our detectives. We were down a detective for a while, and so Nikki and Sergeant Sargentson were doing the work of 3 people, and they're doing an outstanding job at it. Shortly after I got here, we had a few major cases that they were working on, and unfortunately it makes them have to set all the other cases aside to work on those, and so they got backed up, but we've got another detective now that's helping them out. But Nikki does a great job. She takes care of all of our sexual assaults and a lot of our persons crimes, and she's always good about coming in my office and filling me in on what's going on so that I know what's going on as things are unfolding. So I really enjoy working with Nikki, and I look forward to working with her for a long time. Congratulations. And where's he at? Dave Goodwin. He was going to come up. Oh, he's right in front. Come on up.
Dave Goodwin, President of the Atwater Police Officer Association. Detective Mulligan, I almost called you by your first name. It's an honor to work with you. We all love you. You're the best, and you really deserve this. So congratulations from the Atwater Police Department and the Atwater Police Officer Association.
Her supervisor, Dave Sargentson, wants to say a few words.
She's super nervous. I just want to say thank you to her family. She works countless hours. She, like the chief spoke about, she handles most of our most hard investigations, which is, the investigations against children. So along with that and the homicides, we do spend a lot of time away from our family. So thankful for the families allowing us to borrow her countless times. So I just want to congratulate her. She's my left hand, and she's awesome.
All right, so the next certificate is in recognition, is awarded to December Hunter, who is the Dispatcher of the Year.
December, she has a great personality, great attitude. She's always in a good mood. I've never seen December upset or angry, or I'm sure she gets angry, but I've never seen it. She works one of our busiest shifts, and things can get pretty hectic in there, and a lot of times she's in there by herself. Most of the time she's in there by herself, but she does an outstanding job of answering the phones and working the radio and keeping everybody coordinated. So I really enjoy working with December, and I look forward to working with her for a long time as well. I asked her supervisor if she wanted to come up, and she said, no, thank you.
She's great.
Again, on behalf of the Atwater Police Officers Association, we love you, December. You're our lifeline, and as police officers, we love our dispatchers, so congratulations.
And last but certainly not least, we have an award today for Firefighter of the Year for Taylor Holden.
Perfect, thank you. I think we always get teased as a fire department for coming in strong with all of our employees, and I look outnumbered tonight. So unfortunately, we had an incident, so the engines couldn't be here to receive it. Taylor was one of our firefighters that we hired with our increased staffing levels, outstanding individual, hard worker, solid fireman. Had to take a promotion in Monterey, San Benito Monterey unit. So he did leave us recently, but will not be forgotten. We did share with him that he's always got a home here. So thank you to everybody for the recognition. Thank you to council for recognizing him, and we really appreciate it.
Okay, so we're on to presentation number 1, which is a verbal update regarding Merced County's implementation plan regarding the $3.2 million grant award in collaboration with the City of Atwater. And presenting today will be John Sheckley, Merced County Deputy Director of Human Services Agency. Good evening, John.
Thank you, Honorable Mayor Nelson, members of the Atwater City Council. John Sheckley, Deputy Director for Merced County Human Service Agency, which includes responsibility for our homeless response and the collaborative applicant. So excited to be here today to discuss the encampment resolution funding that we were able to secure, and with a target of the City of Atwater encampments. So on our agenda today, I really big on relationships. So we want to establish a relationship between the Merced City and County Continuum of Care, the collaborative applicant, which the County Human Service Agency provides services as, some context behind why we chose Atwater based on point in time count. We'll review quickly some existing and pending local projects, and then really get into the encampment resolution funding program overview and some possible opportunities to sustain or enhance our partnership moving forward. So what is a COC? A continuum of care is a HUD designated regional authority. So that's a federal department, Housing and Urban Development, that designates an area. In our case, it's the Merced City and County Continuum of Care, which is fortunate for us. It encompasses the entire county. There are other COCs that encompass multiple counties or some that just cover cities. So it's kind of fortunate that it aligns well with our mainstream services. It's composed of a network of service providers, government agency, and community organizations. There's a COC board, a Continuum of Care board that has Mayor of Merced, Chief of Police for Los Banos, the Superintendent of Schools, one board of supervisor, and then multiple service providers. And the purpose, and really that the heart of why we're here today, it's purpose is to provide a community-wide commitment to the goal of ending homelessness. I know when I first came on about 10 years ago, we had a plan to end homelessness. I think at this point we're being much more realistic. We have annual plans that we're going in and making adjustments based on what the landscape looks like. And we're more about, at this point, managing homelessness with an eye on eventually how do we end homelessness within our jurisdictions. We provide funding to nonprofit organizations at the state, local governments, access to and effective utilization of mainstream programs like CalFresh, CalWorks, et cetera. And then I think really most importantly is to optimize self-sufficiency among individuals and families experiencing homelessness. So a collaborative applicant, we just talked about the Continuum of Care Board, right? It's a designation by HUD, Housing and Urban Development, but honestly, they're not a legal entity. It's a group of stakeholders, but HUD can't go into contracts, so they have to identify a collaborative applicant. And back in 2018, it was the United Way. The United Way came to the community and basically said they weren't going to be able to sustain this any longer. It didn't align well with what their focus areas were. At that time, we probably had a little more than $1.5 million that were at risk and jeopardy. And the county, had a very thoughtful approach and looked at are there other CBOs, community-based organizations that could take this on. In 2017, 2018, homelessness was really becoming a huge issue in the state and here locally. We were unsuccessful in identifying someone else to take that role on as the legal entity, the collaborative applicant administrative entity. So the County Board of Supervisors did agree to do this. And they did agree to do so on a couple provisions, right? To making sure there's a clear distinction, and that's why I'm spending time here on the Continuum of Care Board and their authorities and their funding versus our County Board of Supervisors. All of the funding decisions are made through the Continuum of Care Board. So these are not Board of Supervisors making those decisions. We're really just supporting administratively what those decisions are. We do have some responsibilities for planning activities such as the point-in-time count. The point-in-time count 1 day a year in January, towards the end of January, we'll go out and literally count individuals to get that consistent number. Is it a flawed methodology? Yes, but it's a consistent methodology and helps us determine how strategically we're going to approach certain jurisdictions. I think most, our biggest, there's a staff of about 4 of us that administer the collaborative applicant administrative duties. Our biggest responsibilities around procurement. And HSA, the Human Service Agency, is in a very good position as the largest county department to administer the procurement, contract processing, contact monitoring. I do have one of my team members here, Jewel Wise, as an analyst, and she can attest that I do daily talk about us being audit proof as a very important aspect of what we do here as we are good stewards of public funds. So the 2024 Housing and Urban Development point-in-time count, as you can see on the board and hopefully in front of you, this is an unsheltered count. There were 428 unsheltered individuals. A lot of those concentrated in the city of Merced and the city of Los Baños. At that time in 2024, so now we're almost a year and a half, there were 53 folks, individuals counted as unsheltered in the city of Atwater. You can see the distribution here, but this really speaks to why we're here this afternoon, and why we thought it was very strategic to apply for the encampment resolution funding. So existing and pending projects, we go to the next slide. We've been very deliberate about being regional in approach, making sure that if we're gonna open a navigation center with 76 beds in the city of Merced, which makes a lot of sense there with the population, that we're also opening what we called distributive homes countywide, or in the unincorporated area that we open these bridging homes. To date, we have 9 homes, single-family residents that are rented and form a certain segment of our emergency shelter beds. The chart here shows within the city of Merced, obviously based on that point-in-time count, we have 163 emergency shelter beds in operation and 124 permanent housing units. Why I call these housing units out? They were funded specifically to house people experiencing homelessness. So if homelessness is a poverty and behavioral health and social support issue, it's very difficult in a community where 16 to 20% of households are at the federal poverty level to compete for just regular affordable housing. So these houses are affordable, but they have a further restriction that they must house people who are either at risk or experiencing homelessness. In the pending permanent housing beds, we have 144 in the pipeline. So we've received City of Merced as a lead applicant with support from our housing authority, our managed care plan, our human service agency, our behavioral health and recovery service agency, Central Valley Opportunity Fund, 144 beds through several other funding sources, including No Place Like Home. So those 144 beds represent 3 distinct projects that should open sometime in June. We'll have 21 beds for veterans, and then probably projecting out 2 years for the bulk of those beds. City of Los Banos has 30 emergency shelter beds through a distributive house or a bridging home, and then they've got an award through this same funding source. They received $11 million for permanent housing that they're under development right now. Again, about a 24-month timeline. And then in the unincorporated county, we rent 3 beds with another bed on the way, 3 of those in Beechwood, Franklin, so close proximity to this jurisdiction, and 1 in Winton, for folks who are unsheltered, where they can go basically get a place off of the streets to stabilize, get connected to a case manager, get connected to services, and then eventually get connected to permanent housing. We also have the Village of Hope, which is a Merced rescue mission project on Cone Avenue on the outskirts of the city of Merced, currently operating 52 beds. The respite care beds, I think it's important to call out, are funded through our managed care plan. The managed care plan actually pays them a per diem rate for individuals discharging from the hospital or institutions. So they have additional time between 30, 60, and 90 days to work on a better housing plan. And then 72 beds, they should break ground this summer on the 72-bed expansion of Phase 2. So a lot of things to be hopeful for in regards to beds that are in existence and then those that are on the way, which is about 265 or so. So why are we here? I really want to add Atwater to that previous slide. We really want to be deliberate about providing services to people in this community, in our county, who are living unsheltered. So our responsibilities include the entire geographic region of Merced County. As the previous slide showed, we have projects in other jurisdictions. The city of Atwater had the next highest point in time count and is in alignment with the purpose of the COC. And then we want to build meaningful partnerships. We want to show there's value in investing in this, and the best way to do that was to take that first step, apply for some funding, and then prove that this is beneficial not only to your community, to our entire community, housed and unhoused. So encampment resolution. So much has changed in the last 11 or 10 months. Where you had the Supreme Court overturn Grant Pass versus Johnson, which made it an 8th Amendment violation to enforce any kind of ordinances on public space if you didn't have enough emergency shelter bed. Governor Newsom quickly followed that up with an executive order to abate encampments on state-owned property. A lot of us have amended our ordinances to recognize this new reality that encampments are no longer protected by the Supreme Court. There will be undoubtedly more litigation around that, but there is now alignment at the federal, state, and local level to make this a priority. So the Encampment Resolution Fund overview, it's a 4-year grant program, but I think it's important, again, with an expenditure deadline of 6/30/2027. So there were 3 rounds. There was some leftover funding. They created a 4th round, so not everything's lining up. So basically, we'll have about 2 years of this program here in the city of Atwater. The objective is really clear: resolve people's experience of unsheltered homelessness. If you're residing in an encampment in a public space, we need to transition them directly into permanent housing, which is a big challenge. In this case, it's more interim shelter focused with a clear pathway to permanent housing. There were about $298 million available, of which we were awarded, we being the Continuum of Care, $3.2 million for individuals residing in encampments. We put this application in probably almost 2 years ago, so it took some time for the award. At the time, we were prioritizing this lot here. It's adjacent to Caltrans along Atwater Boulevard. Obviously, it's very difficult. Encampments are transitory by nature. They're often moved around, but this is a prioritized encampment. This is where we'll go day one to try to encourage folks who may be in this location, and then subsequently we'll move out into the city of Atwater for non-prioritized but still important. It's important to note this is only for the city of Atwater. We are restricted just to the city of Atwater, and the services will be provided as such. This is a little hard for community members potentially to read. I can go through here relatively quickly. So solutions to homelessness are fairly simple, right? It's a house, but in order to get there, it's a complex problem. So our budget focuses on 3 or 4 main activities. That's street outreach. You have to go out there, you have to build rapport, you have to build some trust, you have to identify who's here, and then what service needs they may have. In this case, we're very fortunate. A huge component is interim sheltering. And we've been very successful in the last few years using either motels or those bridge homes as interim shelter. We have an RFP out right now, so it's a substantial expense for 27 rooms at, say, a motel, typically somewhere between $85 to $100 per day to get them off the streets and into what, in this case, would then become an emergency shelter for them. There's also the next step after the assessments and identifying, getting people their vital documents, their right to work documents, et cetera. We have some rental assistance payments that we can make for folks. Again, pretty substantial, and that number there of $13,000 a year is based on fair market rent for a studio apartment for 12 months. So what we hope to do is very quickly engage with people in public spaces, encourage them to access our emergency shelter, and then start working on navigating them towards permanent housing. And then lastly, administrative supports and homeless management information system, making sure we're identifying, getting information that'll help us craft better solutions in the future. I can say with a high degree of confidence, typically what we find in jurisdictions are people who are residing there unsheltered are from that jurisdiction. So that's something we'll be really deliberate about. Where was your last permanent zip code? Typically, we find 80 to 85% of folks who are residing in a jurisdiction from that jurisdiction. And that's usually because of social supports, right? You might have a family member who lets you come by once a week and shower. You might have some type of support there that keeps you in that jurisdiction. So this is our current step. Right now, we received the award. It was announced publicly around January. Since then, we've started our procurement process, which includes a request for proposal. That's the orange spot you see there. We did have a respondent to our request for proposal. That's being graded now, and hopefully over the next probably 2 months, I'd love to see an implementation date of around July 1st. We'll contract with a community-based organization to provide these services. Immediately upon execution of contract, we expect street outreach and engagement. We want a by name list where people are in the homeless management information system, and then once we have that list, transitioning those folks out of public spaces, out of your parks, off of your streets, into either what we would anticipate would either be a leased property like our distributed bridge homes, an acquired property was an option. It's a little more complicated there, and then motel rooms are something we've done. We've done that in the city of Los Banos. We rented 25 homes through a governor's 100-day challenge, and we were able to house 20 people in 100 days. I wouldn't anticipate that. That was a broader community effort, but that's the kind of success when we are able to stabilize folks and really focus on individuals, the kind of success we saw. One thing that caught me by surprise in that 100-day challenge is about 30 people ended up getting employment. So a lot of it was in the tomato factories, and it was that time of year. It was a good time of year, but that was really encouraging to see. People just needed to get stable, get their feet under them, not worry so much about health and safety, and then they ended up getting employed. Case management and service coordination will help with that, and then obviously our ultimate goal is permanent housing through rapid rehousing funds into either available housing stock. I mean, I always hear anecdotally a 1 to 3% vacancy rate with 90,000 households. That's a substantial number of vacant houses that we can look to place people in. So encampment resolution partnerships, obviously all of this is in partnership. the continuum of care doesn't do anything without partnership. The continuum of care board can't execute their duties without a collaborative applicant, in this case, the county. A housing development doesn't work without the housing authority in the local jurisdiction being agreeable to that. There's literally not one project that we do that's not within partnership. For this specific project, there was a Caltrans requirement. Caltrans has committed to collaborating with the COC and provide us at least 2-week notice prior to an encampment abatement, right? Allow us the opportunity to engage with folks before they're moved. It makes it much more difficult. It harms the trust, and it makes it kind of, you have to go out, relocate those folks. Of course, there's exception to this. No one, is dictating to a local jurisdiction their approach to encampments. So if it's something such as critical infrastructure, a health or safety issue, those things are, critical, and of course you all have to take action on those. And what are we asking the city of Atwater? Really for support. Support to locate residents in encampments. I know we've worked with the code enforcement officer. He's been really, really good. We've talked to the chief about this as well. If there's someone residing in an encampment, it may be as easy as a phone call. I mean, obviously there'll be one service provider here, so it should be fairly streamlined. It's not not asking for anything other than helping us locate individuals. Support identifying options and locations for securing housing. The last thing we want to do, for example, if the proposal that we receive says, I'm going to buy a home in Atwater and I'm going to create an interim housing, we want to make sure there's support from the local jurisdiction for us to do that. So if that's what the proposal is, we'll be working very closely with your city manager, anyone assigned, to make sure that we're in alignment. The last thing we want to do is come in to the jurisdiction as good natured as we may feel we're being and not be in alignment with you all. And then, of course, collaboration in sustaining the Encampment Resolution Fund program. My experience has been every time we start a program, including the one that was in Los Banos, they show value. There's some value and return on that project, and we can come up with some pretty creative ways to sustain it if this council determines that's something they're interested in. That really takes us to our next slide, right? This is a one-time limited pilot program. The collaboration and sustaining the encampment resolution funding, there's a lot of different ways. Today, the governor just announced $3.1 billion. It's sometimes difficult to wrap your head around the amount of funding. This funding, Merced County actually received some for outpatient treatment for behavioral health. So one possible funding sustaining source is CalAIM, which is the reconfiguration of the Medi-Cal program. They've created something called Enhanced Care Management and Community Supports. Individuals experiencing homelessness are eligible for that, and it's paid for by the managed care plan. So that's one sustaining way to keep housing navigators engaged, outreach workers paid for. Another, and these are just off the top of my head, this is not an exhaustive list by any standards here, is a permanent local housing allocation. Every jurisdiction with a compliant housing element in the state of California receives a distribution, a formulaic distribution of the permanent local housing allocation, and there's also a competitive allocation for non-entitlement jurisdictions. We're not talking about large dollar amounts here, but the formula distribution can be used for homeless services as well as the competitive allocation. Community development block grant, again, a competitive for a non-entitlement jurisdiction subject to the federal. One of the proposals right now is to not fund community development block grant, but there's a public service provision there that could possibly be used. And then Proposition 1, which is the Home Key Plus program. I just mentioned the first tranche of that came out. There's a second tranche of that. There's the Emergency Solution Grant. There's the Continuum of Care Consolidated application. So that's where we're really good at helping, depending on what the local jurisdiction's interested in, if they are interested in coming up with a plan on how we can support that. I know your Board of Supervisors been very vocal about us helping jurisdictions. It's not easy lift. There's a reason the county's acting as a collaborative applicant. We do have a lot of resources, and at this point we have a lot of experience, and of course we offer that experience in partnership with you all. I believe, other than questions, that's a very high-level overview. Again, appreciate the city staff who's worked with us on crafting a presentation, and we stand by ready to answer any questions.
Well, thank you, first of all, for coming here and trying to explain this. I think there's probably more questions now that you've brought this up. But I do notice here on your last slide, you do have your contact information on there, your email, phone, and the mercedcoc.org website. So the public can get more information there. Okay. Yeah, I was just kind of curious, $3 million is going to last for 2 years. Then what? I know you answered you answered that because you don't know. So.
No, so I'm probably the most comfortable county employee with uncertainty. Because for 10 years, we haven't known the answer to that. This year, the focus is on encampments. When this started, it was just emergency funding. Here's $1 billion. I think the state is starting to recognize there has to be some structure around that and some deliverables. We don't know, but I do think there'll be some roadmaps.
Council, have any questions?
I just want to thank you, John, for coming and presenting this to the council and the community. I have worked with you for many years, and we have collaborated together, and I appreciate your continued leadership on this project. I do have some concerns, of course, from a residential standpoint with creating shelters for our homeless population without having the resources dedicated to them in the city of Atwater. So I would just ask that, whoever the oversight committee is, this board, that they would, take a close look and ensure that whomever is assigned the RFP, that they are providing the services that they state that they'll provide.
Understood. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I agree with Councilwoman with that. So you said there were, in 2024, there was 53 residents here. Do you know the number now?
We have a very, yes, we have a draft number from this last January, substantially lower than that.
Okay.
It hasn't been published or approved by the COC, so a little hesitant, but yeah, the unsheltered count has dropped significantly.
Significantly. Okay, that's good. Thanks. So the COC, are they employed by the HSA?
They're all county. The collaborative applicant staff are all employed by Human Service Agency. Yes.
Okay. I wanted to make sure of that, and I hope that there's oversight, because I hate to see taking all this money and then somebody else making money off of it. So I appreciate that. Okay.
Okay, thank you very much for that.
Welcome. And there's some copies in the back for community members, and any questions we're happy to answer. Thank you all so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Next, we're having a verbal update regarding water quality from our attorney, Daniel Boone, representing Miller and Axline. Good evening.
Good evening, Mayor Nelson, council members, and all of the citizens of Atwater who are here showing that they care about their city. City Manager Chris invited me here to speak to you tonight and to the public. And it's an honor for me to be here on a night that you are honoring people here in your community who keep your community safe. And it was very touching to me to see them honored. And thank you for having me here. So my name is Daniel Boone. I am an attorney at the Miller and Axline Law Firm. And our law firm was founded about 50 years ago in Sacramento. Very early on, we started specializing in water contamination cases. We only represent water providers, cities, water districts, but unfortunately, because contamination of drinking water is so widespread, we have cases not only in California, but we also represent the Commonwealth of Puerto Rico, the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, the state of Maryland, West Virginia, and there are even more than that. We've also represented the city of Atwater in prior water contamination cases, one for a chemical called TCP and another DBCP. Those are both agricultural pesticide chemicals that are applied. You have a lot of farmland here. And once they're applied to soil, as time goes on, they can find their way down through soil to groundwater and eventually into drinking water. So we represented the city in both of those cases, and fortunately had good outcomes in those cases so that the city was able to respond and remove those chemicals from drinking water. Now, the chemicals I am going to talk about tonight are perfluoroalkyl substances and polyfluoroalkyl substances, and because of those long chemical names, they are referred to as PFAs, or some people say PFAS or PFOS. So that's how I'll refer to them tonight. Can we go to the second slide? Oh, we're there. Good. Where do PFAs come from? Unfortunately, they come from almost everywhere. This that you are looking at now is just a partial listing of a few of the categories and types of products that they are used in. Aqueous film forming foam, AFFF, is one that is particularly getting a lot of attention right now, and I'll be talking more about that in a few minutes. But you can see there, because these chemicals were found to be so useful for so many different things, for stain resistance, water resistance, grease resistance, metal plating, all the things that you see here, they were literally put into tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of different products that were widely distributed in the United States and the world. So they are here. And if you have done any reading on your own about PFAs, you may have seen them referred to as forever chemicals. They were designed, they are human-made, they don't occur naturally in nature, and they were designed to be resistant to water, stains, and all of those things. So when they get into soil, if they do break down, they often break down into other PFAs. So they're very persistent. And the only way to deal with them then is to remove them. And we'll talk about removal. We'll go to 3. As you can see, this is a problem that is not at all just in Atwater. The state of California, EPA, has published statistics that they have gathered that show that nearly 80% of the public water systems in California have shown various PFAs. And the New York Times and many other media outlets have had a lot of stories about PFAs over the last few years. According to them, as many as 158 million Americans have PFAs in their water. So who made them? The big two, although there are others, but the big two are 3M, Scotchgard, and many other products. 3M had the first breakthrough and kind of had the basic patent on PFAs, and then they licensed to DuPont. So those are the big two. 3M discovered PFAs in the 1940s, And so they have been around for a long time in all of those products. And of course, you recognize those two names, 3M and DuPont. They produce a lot of products. Why don't we go on to the next? Now, why is it just now that attention is coming to PFAS? Well, even though they were invented in the 1940s, and the chemical companies, 3M, DuPont, in the 1970s, their scientists, as you can imagine, they employ thousands of scientists. So they were studying these substances, and they knew as early as the 1970s that these substances, because they were in so many products, that they could escape into the environment and eventually go through soil and get to groundwater. But the problem is, in our law firm, we see this, unfortunately, all the time. Chemical companies, oil companies, they don't like to fess up to what they've done. So they didn't make the information that they had public. And in the 1990s, with continued research, they even knew that PFAS could harm human beings, but they didn't tell that to the government or to the public. So it was really through internal whistleblowers and independent research that the facts gradually came into the light, and it is only in recent years that governments, the state of California is usually very at the forefront of regulating chemicals. So the state of California and the federal government have only recently regulated the PFAS chemicals. And by the way, the experts and published information differ as to exactly how many PFAS there are. I've seen some numbers that put it around 5,000, other numbers that put it at 12,000, and even as high as 19,000 different PFAS, because 3M invented the original, and then everyone they licensed it to could add another molecule on the end of the chain, and so that's why there are so many around. But that's what the evidence shows, is that this was kept under wraps for a long time. That's why it's coming to attention now. How did PFAS come to Atwater? Well, you remember at the beginning, one of the beginning slides, aqueous film forming foam, AFFF, used for firefighting, and it does a great job at putting out fires. It was used on a lot of military bases and by a lot of fire departments. And then you see the second bullet there, that the PFAS that has now come to Atwater, it's possible that it has come from some of those consumer products or other sources that were shown on the earlier slide. But our investigation so far indicates that AFFF is probably the main source. Should we go to the next? The Water Department, Department of Public Works, have been paying special attention recently to well 16 and well 18. And the reason is because of where those wells are located down gradient from Castle Air Force Base. The TCP case that we handled for the city involved doing a lot of investigation about Castle Air Force Base and the areas surrounding it. So we know that firefighting training was done on the base, And as you can imagine, with aircraft, fuel, things like that, AFFF foam is particularly adept at putting out fuel fires. So it seems at this early stage of investigation that Castle is probably a likely source, but there are a lot of dots to be connected to make a case. So I just wanted to show you so that you would have a visual idea of how PFAS comes to be used. It is mixed with water and air, and usually then pumped out of, this is showing a pipe. You'll see some pictures in a moment of hoses being used. But this will show you that PFAS can escape from its original container, leak into soil, and unfortunately chemicals do travel through asphalt, concrete. So that's one means. When it is in use, doing what it is meant to do, its good job of putting out fires, once it gets on the ground, it can penetrate soil, asphalt, concrete, get to groundwater, or it can run off to surface water and sometimes to a storm drain if there is one nearby. This gives you an idea. This shows two firefighters and the size of the equipment that is sometimes used to apply AFFF, and we can go on to another one. This is AFFF being used for an aircraft fire. That might be a training or maybe a real fire, I don't know. And we could go on to one more. As you probably got a sense from the last two photographs, once the AFFF puts out the fire, there's often a lot of it left, a lot of it on the ground, and gravity being gravity, it will travel down. So, the city has been taking action, and that action includes regular sampling of the drinking water wells. Those samples are collected by city employees, sent to independent laboratories where, and they've got the equipment to do the testing. They can test chemicals now down to parts per trillion. And then the laboratory will report back to the city, but also report those results to the State Water Board, and sometimes the federal EPA also asks for submissions of data. So your city is paying great attention to this and doing that sampling and getting the laboratory results, and also the state and the federal government. So they're, and not just Atwater, as we pointed out on an earlier slide, all water providers are doing this. So there is a lot of attention on the PFA chemicals right now. So the last bullet point there shows that the city is also contemplating the possibility of litigation because, as I mentioned, unfortunately, the PFA chemicals don't break down. They are very persistent. They last a long time. They're very expensive to remove, and removal is the only means. Could we go to the next? I just wanted to give you a diagram here. Ignore the dimensions. These tanks are, as shown, are very small. We'll look at it in a moment at some real vessels out in the wild. But I wanted to show you this so that you understand the basic process of how the PFAS chemicals are removed. So if you start at the left on this diagram, water is pumped up from groundwater. It's headed for the first vessel that is filled with GAC, granular activated carbon. It absorbs chemical molecules. Before it even gets to vessel number 1, there is a sample point. And that's important because you want to know what the raw water is that's going in before there's been any filtration or treatment. And it goes down into vessel number 1, it goes through the GAC. And the carbon that is in there captures whatever molecules of contaminants it can. If it's a TCP molecule, capture that. If it's a DBCP molecule, it can capture that. If it's a PFA chemical, it can capture that. And then the water is pumped up and over toward a second vessel. And in between the two vessels, you have a second sampling point. And that's important for the city to know how much, what they had coming in, what the first vessel managed to get, grab onto before it goes to the second vessel. And then it passes through a second vessel full of carbon and then comes out, and there's even a third sampling point, very important one, before it goes out to the water system. That sample is taken to make sure that if there was any PFA chemical in the incoming raw water, that the filtration system has worked before it goes out to the water system. Why don't we go on to the last slide? These are two vessels that are actually in use in Atwater right now. They were installed for the chemical that I mentioned earlier, TCP, but as I mentioned a moment ago, they will also be filtering out any PFAS that is showing up at these particular vessels, and there are other vessels in the city. So that's the good news, that the city already has treatment on well 16 and well 18, and those vessels are packed with carbon, billions, as you might imagine, billions of molecules of carbon, all doing their work to capture any contaminants before they get out to be served to Atwater customers. So that is a very, very high level, just sort of general overview of PFA substances, how they got here, how widespread they are, and what the city is doing so far to keep everybody safe. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Boone, for being here tonight. And I kind of know some of this stuff already, but the fact that water and grease-proof coatings in food contact packaging, so your hamburger wrappers, to keep the hamburger from sticking to the paper, is coated with this stuff. Yeah, okay. Great. Any? No. Okay.
Mayor, if I may, just for the city manager, can you tell us the results of well 16 and 18 for the public?
Yes.
Post treatment.
Yeah. So we had testing done on the water that had gone through the treatment systems at wells 18 and 16, and the results showed that the PFAS is non-detect. So that shows us that the treatment systems that we have in place are working to remove those chemicals.
Now we're going to move on to the consent calendar. Notice to the public.
Background information has been provided on all matters listed under the consent calendar, and these items are considered to be routine. All items under the consent calendar are normally approved by one motion. If a council member requests separate discussion on any item, that item will be removed from the consent calendar for separate action.
All right, is there any public comment regarding the consent calendar? Good evening.
The warrants list, I noted 3 items here, but also 5 expenditures that come under Amazon Capital. Don't know, I mean, it's just a constant Amazon Capital. They're for like small amounts, but they're all under the public safety tax. But the ones that stood out, Always Towing, $1,437.50. LexisNexis Risk Data, $960. And MES, I guess that is either MES or MES, Service Company LLC, $4,697.84 for a grand total of $7,115.34. In the grand scheme of things, that's not a whole lot of money when you look at budgets and things like that. But it's $7,100 that we could buy a cop with, at least for a month. So I keep bringing this up to you for the simple reason that none of you ever raises a question pertaining to the public safety tax in the warrants. It's a simple fact. And it's supposed to be for personnel and equipment. I don't know what the 3 that I noted here have to do with public safety that benefits the public. I don't get it. If somebody can explain it, great, but I don't see it. And as well as the 5 others that I noted here for much smaller amounts. But I hope that someday you guys are going to take more of a look at the expenditures in the warrants list as it relates to Measure B.
All right, thank you. Anybody else? Seeing nobody else come forward, I'm going to close public comment. Yes, you may.
I've never done this before, so
That's fine, no problem.
with the water, I've noticed I have family with health problems related. We think it's because of water, and
Okay, so let me ask you a question here before you get going. So you're talking about the water presentation?
correct.
Okay, we're on the consent calendar now, so that's it. But you will have an opportunity at the end of,
Do that afterwards.
yeah, at the end of the meeting, yeah.
Cool, great. All right, thank you.
Yeah, no problem, no problem. Okay, if there's nobody else, then I'm going to close public comment on the consent calendar. Any items on the consent calendar that council would like to remove for separate discussion and possible action? Hearing none, would any council member like to make a motion regarding the calendar?
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion by Kale, second by Raymond. Kale?
Yes.
Ambrose?
Yes.
Raymond?
Yes.
Rochester?
Yes.
Nelson?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay, so now we're on to public hearing, item 6. Reporting on the City of Atwater vacancies and recruitment and retention efforts in relation to Assembly Bill 2561. I'm going to open the public hearing, and our Human Resources Director, Janice Souza, is going to make her presentation.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Good evening, members of the public. This is a presentation on Assembly Bill 2561, and it has to do with City of Atwater vacancies, recruitment, and retention efforts. So I just wanted to go over real quick the legislative intent of AB 2561, and that is to foster transparency regarding the number of vacancies the city is experiencing, how the city conducts recruitments, and the efforts to address them. Effective January 21st, 2025, all public employers are required to disclose the status of vacancies and recruitment and retention efforts. Such information shall be presented during a public hearing before the governing board each fiscal year prior to the adoption of an annual budget. So this is just a general slide on our workforce. Our total budgeted or authorized full-time positions in the current fiscal year are 105. Services rendered to the public by the budgeted authorized workforce include administrative and support services, public works and infrastructure services, parks, recreation and community services, planning, zoning, and development services, and public safety services. And this is a slide that shows the vacancy information for each bargaining unit, and I'll just go through each one. So the Atwater Police Officers Association currently has 35 budgeted full-time employees. They have 0 vacancies, and I wish I had some wood to knock on around me. I don't like to say that out loud too often. That's really good. We try to keep vacancies down, at least in the police department for sure. That's a 0% vacancy rate. Clerical unit currently has 16 full-time budgeted employees. 2 vacancies exist in that unit right now, and that's a total of 12.5%. And just a note on that, we do have 1 employee scheduled to begin work on May 27th, so that will be the first start date for that person. And we have another person in pre-employment activities, so those 2 are being handled right now. Mid-managers unit, we have 11 full-time budgeted employees. We have 1 vacancy in that unit, which is a total of 9.09%. We will be advertising for that position soon. In our miscellaneous unit, we have 33 budgeted full-time employees. And we have 4 vacancies in that unit, which is a total of 12.12%. That was 3 until last week. We had a retirement in that unit, so now it's 4, but good news, we were already advertising. So that closes this week actually on the 14th, and we will be testing next week. The following week will be interviews, and we should have all of those filled by the end of June. This is not a bargaining unit, but I did list it so that I could account for all of the 105 positions, which is the unrepresented full-time employees. That includes the city manager, all department directors, and all HR staff. That's a total of 10 budgeted full-time employees. We currently have 1 vacancy, which is the community development director, and that is, we're close to trying to fill that position. All right, so hiring issues, recruitment, and retention. The city continuously reviews applicable policies, procedures, and recruitment activities to identify any potential obstacles in the city's hiring process, and we adjust accordingly based on those issues we find. Recruitment efforts include targeted job ads on various platforms, including social media and job-specific boards. And retention efforts include training and development of existing staff, succession planning, and an ongoing citywide benefit study to ensure employee benefits are competitive with surrounding agencies. That concludes my presentation. There is no action required on this item. It is just fulfilling the legal obligations. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that. Council have any questions for Gianna?
I do have a question. Are you counting the frozen positions that we have for the police department for police officers in the 0%, or do we count that?
We don't count that. That is, we're only counting authorized positions.
Got it. Thank you.
Okay. Is there any public comment on this item? Okay, seeing nobody come forward, I'm closing the public hearing. We need a motion to accept. No? No? Okay. All righty, so we are accepting that, so move on to the next report. Thank you, Jana. Item 7, accepting the City of Atwater Police Department 2024 Annual Military Equipment Use Report. Chief McEachin will be giving the staff report and any recommendations.
Chief, sorry to interrupt, your mic's not working.
There we go. Sorry about that. I'll start over. AB 481, which was passed in September of 2021, requires all law enforcement agencies to submit an annual military equipment use policy. The state defined military equipment, and several items that the Atwater Police Department possesses falls under the definition of military equipment. And so we prepare this report every year. Sergeant Dave Sargentson, who you heard from earlier, he actually is our range master and our armorer, and he's the one that completes this report annually. And Dave's going to come up and present the report to you.
Council, Mayor, and constituents, thank you for allowing me to provide you guys with the 2024 Military Equipment Report for California Assembly Bill 481 and inventory per California Government Code 7070, subsection C. Introduction, this report provides an overview of military equipment categorized under California Assembly Bill 481, along with our agency's inventory of such equipment. AB 481 defines various categories of military equipment subject to additional oversight. And some of these things you guys will find like how is that military? But it is what the constituents wanted us to report on, so I'll go over that. So category 1 is unmanned, remotely piloted, powered aerial or ground vehicles, drones. We have one in inventory. It's a DJI Mavic, model number 3T. It is a mid-level drone. It's not a huge one, but it has been in an inventory, and our Sergeant Snyder is in charge of the drone team and has passed the licensing for that. And we're waiting for additional members to pass that piloting exam. And category 2, mine-resistant ambush protected vehicles, or, armored personnel. Obviously, that we don't have that in our inventory. I'm going to go over the next few that we don't have. Category 3, high mobility, multi-purpose vehicles like MRAPs, trucks, or wheeled vehicles with breaching apparatus. We don't have that. Tracked armor vehicles providing ballistic protection. We're not in possession of those. Section 5, command and control vehicles for operational control. We do have one of those. The description of that is a 24-foot command post crime scene vehicle, and obviously the purpose of that is management and coordination of emergency response efforts. We will have that out during the Luke Bryan and the 4th of July events. Category 6, weaponized aircraft, vessels, or vehicles. Obviously, we don't have that. Number 7, explosive breaching apparatus. We're not in possession of those. Number 8, category 8, firearms and ammunition of 50 caliber or greater. We do not have possession of that. Section 9, specialized firearms and accessories including assault weapons under category 9. This description is firearms and accessories designated as assault weapons under penal code, precision weapons for addressing threats with more precision and or greater distances. We have 36 in our inventory. They are AR-15 patrol rifle, semi-automatic caliber. The caliber is 5.56. To use this weapon, you have to be authorized users and members with completed California Police Officer Standards and Training Certified Patrol Rifle class. We have one M4 Select Fire 5.56 caliber weapon that is only authorized for users, and we have that one set aside for our SWAT team member. It's currently vacant. Semi-auto training rifles, we have 2. Range and armor staff for officers and evidence of safety training. This includes like a SKS and AK-47 style weapons, so that if they do recover these weapons on the street, they're able to manipulate these safely and remove the ammunition from them. Inventory of 2 40 millimeter single launchers or single shot launchers. Again, you have to be an authorized member, somebody who's completed training from California Post, our certified Safari Land trainers. That you have 2 of those on your department. Myself and Detective Parks are your certified instructors for those, as well as a 37 millimeter single launcher as well. And that one is not in use, and it's going to be probably put aside for the time being. Section 10, firearm accessory designed to launch explosive projectiles. We don't have that. Section 11, a noise flash diversionary devices, and explosive breaching tools, commonly known as flashbangs. We do have one of those in inventory. It's a Defense Technology low roll reloadable body. Section 12, munitions containing tear gas or OC. We do not launch any gas or OC from our launchers. We do not have that in our inventory. Section 13 is taser, which shockwave microwave weapons, water cannons, and long-range acoustic devices we do not have in possession either. Section 14, kinetic energy weapons and munitions. This description, weapons and munitions utilizing kinetic energy for impact. We have 6 of those. We have 4 less lethal shotguns, and then the 2 40 millimeter launchers that I've already spoken of. Again, that's authorized users. Only members that have completed service training are authorized to use a less lethal shotgun and are also trained the same as the 40 millimeter launchers. Item 15, other equipment determined by governing bodies or state agencies. Description, equipment not explicitly listed but deemed to require additional oversight. The purpose of that is ensuring appropriate use and regulation of specialized equipment. Maintenance of military use supply levels. The department may order up to 50% of stock in a calendar year without city council approval to maintain essential availability for the department's needs when stocks have reached significant low levels or have been exhausted. The conclusion of this report, this report provides a comprehensive overview of military equipment as defined by California Assembly Bill 481, along with our agency's inventory. Adhering to regulations and maintaining appropriate levels of oversight is essential for the responsible use of military equipment and public safety and law enforcement operations. I'm open to any questions if you have any.
Thank you. Any questions from the council? Nope. Okay. Or is there any public comment on this item? See nobody come forward. I'm going to close public comment. Sergeant, thank you very much for your report. Appreciate that. Who would like to make the motion regarding this, accepting this report?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Rochester, second by Raymond. Kale?
Yes.
Ambrose?
Yes.
Raymond?
Yes.
Rochester?
Yes.
Nelson?
Yes.
Motion passes.
We're on to item 8, receiving the housing element annual progress report for calendar year 2024. Chris Holm, our city manager, is going to present the staff report.
Thank you. The recommended council action here is to receive and file that housing element annual progress report for calendar year 2024 and direct staff to submit the report to the California Department of Housing and Community Development and the Governor's Office of Planning and Research. Government Code Section 65400 requires that jurisdictions prepare an annual progress report to monitor fulfillment of regional housing needs as set forth in a housing element. And staff and the city's housing consultant, RSG, recently prepared the report for 2024. As in previous years, the report summarizes housing building permit activity for the year and progress made toward the city's allocated housing needs and on the city's housing programs. In addition, the 2024 report includes several additional fields of information, which is included in the staff report. And during 2024, 10 new market rate units were finalized. So if there's any questions, I'll be happy to answer them. Thank you.
Any council questions? Kalisa?
I reviewed the report, and thank you very much for the presentation. I do have a concern related to the fact that we had 0 permits for low income or very low income or even moderate income housing, which is concerning because it tells me that we're pricing individuals potentially out of our city. So I'd like to know what we're doing as a city to meet those needs of individuals who are struggling.
Yeah, so this is kind of a two-pronged issue. One is the city is working on our housing element, and that housing element has implementation requirements that we'll be looking at over the course of the next 12, 18 months, and we're getting close to having that housing element completed. Rincon is the consultants that we're using to help us with that. And the city, I mean, our job is to plan for and facilitate that development. However, it's really the private sector, this is the second part of it, that needs to come forward to do this. And what we're seeing is a lot of times the lower income projects don't pencil out as well. And so it can be difficult because we're facing market issues. And what we can do is follow those implementation points that we're working on in the housing element.
Are there any incentives that we could potentially provide as a city to try to entice these private entities to potentially come in so that we can meet the requirements?
There are some ways for us to do that. I think, I wasn't here, but I think the city council a few years ago was working with the Chelsea Group.
Yes.
And we had some money in our, the former housing authority that we were going to use to incentivize and partially subsidize that development. So that's one example, but that's certainly not the only way.
Thank you.
And I was going to ask you about the Chelsea Group. We approved that, but I haven't seen any movement on it. Can you give us an update on that Chelsea Group and why they haven't moved on doing anything?
I recently had a meeting with the property owner there that's working closely with them, and he gave me some bad news, actually. So they're a very large development group, and they're looking at other places to develop at this point. But I'm working with the property owner to see what we can do for a similar type of project.
Any other questions? Okay. Is there any public comment on this item? Seeing nobody come forward, I'm going to close public comment. Need a motion to receive and file.
Motion to approve staff's recommendation.
Second.
Motion by Raymond, second by Kale. Kale?
Yes.
Ambrose?
Yes.
Raymond?
Yes.
Rochester?
Yes.
Nelson?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay, so we're on to item 9. Now we have 2 items coming up, 9 and 10. 9 deals with the budget amendment and a change order for George Reed for the Fruitland Avenue project, mainly dealing with the high school side of Fruitland, mainly. Item 10 is regarding the Fruitland-Chardonnay intersection. So if you have general questions about Fruitland project, item 9 is where you want to speak. If you have specific issues regarding the intersection of Fruitland and Chardonnay, item 10 is your spot to speak. But if you get it mixed up, it's okay, I'll let you speak anyway. But that's kind of what we're shooting for. Okay, item 9 is approving budget amendment and approving change order number 9 to general construction contract to George Reed, Inc. for the Fruitland Avenue Reconstruction Project Phase 3. City manager is going to make a report.
Hi, thank you. I just have a very brief report on this. We have, and maybe Justin Vincent can back me up, Public Works Director. So we've had various change orders involved with the Fruitland project because different things have popped up. And some of them have been small, some of them have been big. Some of them have been a credit, and some of them have been a debit. So what we're asking for is to authorize a change order up to the aggregate amount of $862,353.96. And that basically covers us to, including all the pluses and minuses for all the different change orders that we have. So if you'd like to dig deeper, we have our Public Works Director here that can provide more information. Thank you.
That amount includes boring a new sewer force main from Kansas to Winton Way, which is $576,000 of that change order. George Reed did give us two options. The other option was to do an open trench so basically just take the backhoe, dig 6 feet down, and on the optics, it came in $80,000 cheaper, but the reason staff's not wanting to think that that's the best way is because every time they've dug on that west side, we've got pumping, which means like there's hard pan about 3 feet down, and that hard pan, the water sits above it. So when we start digging it out, the water actually starts pumping through the dirt. So we have to stop, dig holes, let it dry, and then we've ran into multiple sewer laterals where they've hit the city with change orders. Anything that they run into, when they've open trenched, they've put a lot of change orders in, even if the asphalt's thicker, if anything. So the open trench is more safe, as that's going to be the cost. So that's why staff's recommending boring is more safe. And that's why staff's recommending the bore, even though it's more expensive.
Any council comments?
So is the boring less intrusive?
Yeah, they'll be digging bore pits every 500 feet, and then boring underneath 5.5 to 7.5 feet deep, depends on the potholing data they get.
Okay.
So and then if you open trench, the traffic there at the high school is gonna be, it's gonna be a mess. Whereas if you have the bore pits, it's every 500 feet. They can figure out ways where they're not in the driveway approaches at the high school.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep.
Kalisa?
Moving forward, is there a way that we could eliminate potentially getting hit with such a huge expense, like toward the latter part of a project? So how could we potentially have been better to?
Yeah, I think when we originally did the design back in 2016, the city should have requested a lot more pothole data. The city staff should have requested more pothole data because there wasn't enough pothole data, so we didn't know that the sewer force main rose in elevation.
For everybody's edification, explain what a pothole is.
Right.
Yeah, so basically,
other than what we think potholes are.
yeah, so basically they cut a little circle in the road to see the depth of pipe.
Who performs the pothole data?
It just depends. It depends on how the structure is written. Sometimes you can have the designer do it. Sometimes you have the contractor do it.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Any questions? Nope. Okay, no more council questions. So is there any public comment on this item?
Here, I have a speaker card for this item.
Okay.
He's right there.
Oh, very good. Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Andrew Kahn at 1351 Fruitland. My mother couldn't be here tonight, and since she is the calmer half of their partnership, I agreed to deliver this statement on behalf of my father, Aaron, so his frustration don't get the better of him, me, and everyone else here. I am here to share a concern that might seem minor at first, a mailbox, but for us it seems become symbolic of a larger issue with communication and follow-through. Aaron invested a good amount of time, effort, and money into building a mailbox stand that has both durable and visible appealing, not just for us, but for the neighbors as well. Before installing it, he spoke with both the city and the post office. He was assured the mailbox was in the correct location and wouldn't need to be moved. That changed without warning. The original stand was removed and damaged. When he reached out to the city, he was told to file a claim and assured that that if the property was damaged, it would be replaced with something of like or better quality. Rather than go through the claims process and cost the city more, he built a new steel mailbox stand, same size, built to last, and ready to install. He was then told it needed postmaster approval. Despite multiple calls and in-person attempts to reach the postmaster, he never received a response. Then without notice, he came home to find 4 mismatched crooked posts installed in front of our home, completely disregarding the custom solution he had already provided. He has tried to reach out to find a resolution, but it has been ignored and at times dismissed. That's the most frustrating part. Not the mailbox itself, but the lack of communication and willingness to work with the residents trying to contribute positively to the neighborhood. I'm not here to demand immediate action. I am here asking for fair communication and a commitment to resolving the issue. We would have gladly waited for the street work to be finished if someone had simply said, "We see you and we will get this figured out." Instead, the message has been, "It's not our problem." We also want to bring to your attention the rollouts on Chardonnay and Fruitland. They do look unsafe. We travel it every day and 2 cars cannot pass at the same time. I hope we can find a better way forward. Thank you for your time.
All right, thank you. Did a good job there. Mr. Price.
I'm down on that end. I brought up about Fruitland countless times here. And it's a situation that just gets worse by the day, it seems. All the heavy equipment that's moving up and down or had been moving up and down, Fruitland all the way down towards Vine, is absent now. There's not a piece of equipment out there, but we've got plenty of barriers, detour signs, and those signs and all of that stuff are being ignored by residents right now. We're driving on dirt to get up to Village Woods and other streets up that direction. This is insane, and that just gets worse and worse. Anybody that doesn't think it is, go take a drive up Dakota off of Fruitland. It's a mess, and all those heavy equipment, pieces of equipment that moved up and down there, it's a mess. That has gotten so bad, it's almost impassable. Nobody seems to be making a move by the city. And I agree with the gentleman just previous to me coming up. The communication sucks. We haven't seen or heard anything from anybody. We need to know what's going on with our street. And if it's going to get worse up by the high school, God help us. It looks like it's ready to pour out there where it's down to dirt. If it's not, tell us when it will be. We're not hearing any kind of estimates of a completion date on anything. And when PG&E went out there and dug it up and did what they did on the gas line, we were told the 21st. Well, that day came and went, and they were still out there screwing around with it. Now we're going through this thing waiting for somebody to make a move to do something out there. If there's some extra work needs to be done, then damn it, get out there and do it. And get it done, and let us know when that's going to take place. This has become the biggest joke I've seen on a street in Atwater, and there's people here that just aren't paying attention to it or aren't going down there to see just how bad it is. That's not the way we go and do representative government, people. figure it out.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. Corey Billings, representing the Heather Glen Homeowners Association. There are 10 properties within the association that are directly affected by the Fruitland project. Speaking of the change order issue that's going on, we're going to continue to see change orders, or even after these change orders are done, city staff or someone is going to have to come in and make corrections to the errors that were made during this progress, costing the taxpayers more and more money. A great example is the Heather Glen project. On Heather Glen, on the 14th of April, I went home and I found out that they had put the wood out so that they could put a sidewalk across Heather Glen Lane. I immediately called city staff. City staff called the engineers. They were trying to get down to what was going on. Thanks to Justin, he went immediately out there. However, the next morning, they poured the concrete anyway. And now what we have is today I went home and they went ahead and poured a portion of the asphalt, which then creates an issue that water is going to run back onto Heather Glen Lane. So I had a great opportunity to talk to Chris today. Thank you for your time. You know, the options are not good in any way we look at them. Is a drainage going to have to be put in to control the water backflow that's now going to happen because the street now sits higher than what it used to, where it used to connect on evenly. Now the street is higher because they had to build it up. The slope comes back down on Heather Glen Lane. Unfortunately, we're not the only resident on Fruitland that's having this problem. There are some homes where they built the road up that now sit 12 to 18 inches lower than the road, meaning the drainage is going to come back onto their property. Their driveways are sloped backwards with a 12 to 18 inch slope, going to cause significant damage that the city is going to have to mitigate at some point in time. Again, is this a change order, or is this city staff going to have to come back on their time and again on the taxpayers' money in order to get these things repaired? We brought this to the attention of the supervisor on duty on the evening of the 14th and 15th, and he told me, quote unquote, his only responsibility is to make sure that things were done by the plans. So whose responsibility is it when you're driving out there, if you're not a supervisor, to look at a project and go, hey, wait a second, there's an error right here. Let me, before it gets any further, fix the error. He said it's not his responsibility. So whose is it? Whose is it to fix an error? In the average, business community, as a supervisor, and I see a potential error, before it goes any further, I have to fix the problem. This is not the right way to do business.
All right, thank you. Let's keep that down to a minimum, please. Good evening.
Good evening. I just want to apologize for the man that was so disrespectful right before this one. So some people aren't taught to respect their dignitaries, and it's just really sad. I think you guys are doing a great job, and you really put yourselves out there for a lot of false lies, and it's
Okay, we appreciate that, but we kind of want to keep it on the
okay.
on
Just
the
wanted
agenda.
thank you
item.
guys for you're doing a good job.
All right, thank you. Anybody else? This is just on Fruitland. At the end of the meeting, under public comment, you can talk about all of that, definitely. Okay, Fruitland. Any more? Okay, seeing nobody else come forward, I'm going to close public comment. So the staff recommendation is to, we're making two motions here.
Can I ask a quick question before we make a motion? It's from our Public Works Director. I'm curious about the contract between the city and CCME, the project oversight, and I believe that's who one of our constituents was referencing as the supervisor. What would be their responsibility in this?
Yeah, they oversee the daily inspections on the project, and they also help out with the engineering of kind of like project management as an RE. And then also what I did forget to mention as well is that with the sewer force main work, so the work on from Kansas to Orchard Park, the paving, that won't delay it. That paving is actually gonna be done tomorrow. And then we were already gonna have to wait till the school got out to do the grinding and repaving in front of the high school. So the forest main work should be completed before the last day of school, and then that's when we'll start working on the asphalt in front of the high school all the way to Kansas.
Yeah, I mean, if it's determined that CCME, the project oversight, what's the accountability in terms of if we're raising or residents are raising awareness? Is there any kind of recourse there, or?
If the residents raise awareness to CCME, then they get with the city, and the city ends up making the decisions.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Okay, so the motion to be made is to accept staff's recommendation, even though there's two motions there.
Yeah, I have a question too before we get to that one.
Sure.
It's about your potholing. I'd like to somebody to investigate who did the potholing. Because, you said that sometimes it's a contractor who does it, and sometimes it's a consultant who does it, an engineer. I don't want the same contractor who does it doing the potholing, because they may go, hey, you know what? We won't tell them about that pothole and say, hey, we must have missed this, we can overcharge. This is a lot of money to be overcharging somebody. So I'd like to get some kind of an idea and let me know who did that potholing, if you could, Justin.
Yeah, so Councilmember Kale, we're happy to look into that. I will add, and correct me if I'm wrong, Justin, the issue with this forced sewer main in Fruitland on the west side would exist whether or not we found it now, like sooner or later, and the costs to do that boring are really the best solution to do that work, because it's so shallow. That forced main is just a few inches, just several inches under the surface of the road, and we're actually wondering how it could have been built that way, because it's kind of a marvel. But it needed to be relocated regardless, and so we would have seen these costs either way.
Yeah, correct. It just would have been in the original bid for the project.
Okay. Motion?
Motion to approve staff's recommendation.
Thank you. Second?
I'll second it.
Okay.
Motion by Ambrose, second by Kale. Kale?
Yes.
Ambrose?
Yes.
Raymond?
No.
Rochester?
No.
Nelson?
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right, so now we're on to item 10, which is a presentation by JLB Engineering regarding the Fruitland Chardonnay intersection with possible direction from the council. Jose?
Good evening, members of the council, Mayor Nelson, city manager, members of the city of Atwater, residents. My name is Jose Luis Benavides. My business address is at 516 West Shaw, Fresno, California. Phone number 559-570-8991. I was asked to give a little description and explanation of some of the standards that are used in designing roadways. In particular, something similar to Fruitland at Chardonnay, which includes right now you have curb and gutter, and you have the depressed area where the asphalt will come in later. There are various resources out there, so I will explain some even though they may or may not necessarily apply. So the first one, I would like to say that in the state of California, the preferred lane width for highways is typically 12 feet, but can vary based on location and traffic conditions. Some of the factors that are taken into account are speed, traffic volume, the presence of bike lane, on-street parking, influence, the appropriate lane width. In urban areas with low speeds and minimal truck traffic, and where there is a desire to introduce traffic calming measures, lane widths of 9 to 10 feet may be considered. One of the resources out there that is looked at is the Caltrans Highway Design Manual. By many, it's usually known as the Caltrans HDM. The Caltrans Highway Design Manual establishes uniform policies and procedures for designing the state's highway system. It serves as a guide for the Caltrans engineers, providing design standards and recommendations for various aspects of highway design, including lane width, shoulder width, sight distance. Local governments, such as the City of Atwater, have the authority to develop its own standards, to develop and apply its own standards for roads that are not part of the state highway system. By that is, if you had a statewide highway that traversed the city, their standards apply, but on any other road, you could have your own standards apply. The HDM also has an area which is called Topic 308, which states that the minimum width of local roads that are to be reconstructed as part of a state reconstruction project that should use the locally adopted standards. Often in those particular cases, what happens if the state was reconstructing a state route through some local jurisdiction and they were crossing local streets, they typically would request or consult with that local agency as to what are their standards that should be applied. If that local agency doesn't necessarily have its own standards, then they would ask, can we use our own? So that statement basically confirms that the Highway Design Manual, it's largely used for highway systems, higher speed roads, which are in the state system. That same document, the Caltrans HDM, states that gutter pan should not be used in determining the width of a travel lane, or otherwise known as the lane width. While the Caltrans HDM can be used in determining the appropriate design standards for local roads, the Caltrans HDM is not a required source for the local agency. The state of California has another bulletin which is called Design Information Bulletin 94. They typically refer to these as DIB, in this case DIB 94. This one goes a little bit into categories of lane widths in regards to speed of that particular road. So per the Caltrans DIB 94, the recommended minimum lane width for a 30-mile-per-hour roadway is 10.5 feet. Lane widths of less than 10.5 feet may be used with appropriate documentation of the design standard decision. So in other words, a decision made by the design group or in that case, the state, or if, in this case, city staff, which is based on engineering judgment. Usually it's documented. In these lower lane widths are appropriate in instances where the speed of that facility is less than 40 miles per hour, and the annual average daily truck traffic, also known as AADTT, is less than 250 per lane per day. And so truck traffic is anything 3 axles or greater. Same as the Caltrans Highway Design Manual, the DIB 94 is not necessarily the guidance that a local agency needs to follow, but it can refer to it. The American Association of State Highway and Transportation Officials, also known as AASHTO, it's a national publication that provides a lot of guidance on design of roadways and many aspects of that. Within AASHTO, it states that lane widths of 9 to 12 feet are generally used, with 12 being the predominant width on most high-speed, high-volume roadways. Within AASHTO, there's a section that's in Table 5-5 that recommends a 10-foot lane width for 2-lane local roads with speeds up to 40 miles per hour and volumes less than 2,000 daily trips per day. Just to give a little bit of comparison, the Fruitland is a 30 mile per hour road as currently posted. The most recent data that we have for Fruitland by Chardonnay was 1940 daily trips in 2010. So it's right on that edge. AASHTO, there's a section, this 5.3.2.1 recommends that lanes for moving traffic be between 10 to 11 feet wide, but where attainable right-of-way becomes an issue, that it can go down as 9 feet in residential areas. AASHTO, similar to the Highway Design Manual, excludes the gutter pan in the determination of a lane width. We also looked at some local standards. Atwater does not necessarily have a standard, or doesn't have a standard for that specific situation, which is traffic calming at an intersection. The closest thing that I found with the city of Atwater is Standard Plan ST9, which is a collector street backup. It's basically a collector street near or adjacent to a residential area, which has no parking on either side, and that one has a requirement of an 11-foot travel lane. City of Bakersfield does have a standard that looks very similar to what's being introduced there, which is bulb outs and at an intersection. The City of Bakersfield standard is ST15, has a 24-foot curve, face-a-curve to face-a-curve with 2-foot gutter pans. So in effect, you would have a 10-foot travel lane per direction. So that one is it's 2 feet wider than what's constructed so far right now at that intersection. City of Stockton has one that also includes bulb outs at an intersection. Their standard is R18, calls for a minimum width of 20 feet in a traffic calming intersection. The thing from their standard is that it doesn't specify the inclusion or not of gutter pans. So if it did include gutter pans, you would in effect, have 8-foot travel lanes. If it did not, it's your 10 and 10. So those are just some situations or standards by some of the local communities out there that have some standards for similar situations. So what the city of Atwater has in construction right now, something in between. So I think I'll leave it at that and wait for questions.
Okay, council questions? Oh, I know you do.
So in my email to City Manager Holm, what I requested from our contracted traffic engineer is something in writing indicating whether or not what we have at Fruitland and Chardonnay, if in your professional opinion it meets the standards for safety. And I requested that in writing and I haven't received it. And I'm hearing from you that it could go either way. So I'm wondering if in your professional opinion it meets the standard or not.
Yeah, so I wasn't involved in the earlier decisions on this particular project. So if the staff and the designers documented their reasoning for that approach, it would be. If I am in vacuum, absent all that, I would be recommending something more similar to the Bakersfield standard.
Which would be 10 feet,
About 2 more feet of asphalt.
which would be then 11 feet on either side.
2 more feet total. 1 on each side.
So a total of 10 then for the travel lane.
Yeah.
Okay. So then if you were designing this road, you would not design it having a 9-foot lane width.
As a practice, I don't necessarily design the roads. I focus more on the traffic aspects of it. But if I had to say, yeah, it would be 2 foot wider total.
I'm not trying to put you in a bad way. It's just you're a professional in your field and you should be the expert. So that's why I'm asking for your guidance here, because I'm definitely not an expert, but I did go out to Fruitland and I spoke with the residents and I watched 2 trucks try to pass by each other and it didn't seem safe to me. And so that's why I asked for your professional opinion. So I thank you for letting us know and coming this evening.
Yeah, we have some ideas, and I just want to pause for a moment and see if we want to hear from the public next, or if you'd like to hear something else. Okay, so
Thank you, Jose.
thank you, Jose, for sharing that with us. Oh, go ahead.
So now, as we said, this is section, if you have questions about Fruitland Chardonnay intersection, now's your time to stand up and speak, come to the podium. If you forgot something in the previous section, you can mention that as well. Good evening.
Barra, 585 Village Circle Drive. As he stated, standards, which you guys don't have a standard. So wouldn't you want to go by what Caltrans has submitted or their guidelines? Or is today going to be your standard and then tomorrow's going to be different? Is it always going to change on how you guys decide? If somebody made a mistake, they should own up to it. What I see happen at every single meeting is it was the last council, it was the last mayor, it was somebody else. Nobody's owning up to what they're doing or the mistakes they made. Who's dotting the I's and who's crossing the T's? Nobody is checking invoices to see, well, here's 80 hours. Well, let me go in tomorrow and give you an invoice for 80 hours and you pay me, because it seems that nobody's doing their job. You guys are just paying out money. Like, if it was coming from your bank accounts, would you guys be giving that money out like that? No. it's not your guys' money, so it's like, hey, here, everybody come, it's a free-for-all. Everybody get a cookie, you get a star, you get a star. And then when we come up here to voice our opinion, you look at people like, ugh. Like if it's, yeah, exactly, just like that. But when you were knocking on our doors to come vote for you, you weren't doing that. You were wanting to shake our hand and give us hugs and give the babies kisses, right? We're just here
You're
to
welcome.
voice our opinion.
Right, that's fine.
Right?
That's fine. Not a
Let
problem.
me speak, right? Like you jump in front of
Go for
everybody else, let me speak.
Go for it.
Right?
Go for it.
That's the way it is. We're just here because we want to see things change and get better. We're not here to keep you guys from your families till 10 o'clock at night. But we do want to get our voices heard. You think that all these people that are standing behind me want to have shitty ass mailboxes that are going to break down in 3 months? No. Take the little effort. I went out there and walked and knocked on a couple doors. Took time out of my day to go and knock on a couple doors to measure. There's photos. Get in your guys' car and let a delivery truck go by and go down that street 30 miles an hour and see if you guys get hit. You think they want to do it? Or is that truck going to go onto the sidewalk and hit a little kid? Then who's going to be reliable? You are. Then you guys are going to start paying out more lawsuits than what you guys already have going on right now. So why not do the correct thing and fix it the right way instead of, oh, today's standard this and tomorrow's standard that? Do the right thing. I already told you, get the bad people out that are not doing their job and supposed to be doing their job.
Next.
Mayor, council members, thank you for allowing me the opportunity to speak. My name is Chris Vieira. I am an owner of VVH Consulting Engineers, who actually is your city engineer. I am a licensed engineer, so that makes me a professional. I agree with Mr. Benavides' comments. This is not an exact science. In 2016, when this roadway was designed, for those who are around, it was done, part of the reason was because you didn't meet the warrants for traffic stop signs. So something had to be done. And the city had no standard for traffic calming measures. So they asked us to provide some guidance. We utilized guidance from projects that are in San Joaquin, Stanislaus, and Merced County. Over 10 projects that actually have intersections with less width than what is proposed here. But we didn't do this in a vacuum. We provided it to your staff, Scott McBride, police and fire, and they all gave the thumbs up. They were happy with it. So it sat there for 8 years, was provided in every public hearing or every public outreach you had. There was ample time to change it because, again, we only provide recommendations as your design professional. You were the only ones that make the decision on what gets built. If you want it wider, you can have it wider. But I would not recommend that because of the health and safety issues. You have crosswalks there. You have people that jet down the roadway. The reason you put a traffic calming measure in place is to slow traffic so that pedestrians that are walking across the crosswalk don't get hit, and it becomes an unsafe issue. There are jurisdictions, though, that have spent a lot of time on traffic calming measures, the city of Stockton being one of them. In 2021, they commissioned a report through Farron Pierce, who, by the way, is doing your traffic analysis for your general plan update. In there, they referenced a bulb out of 20 feet. As Mr. Benavides says, you can't understand whether the gutter pans are in there. Well, it's pretty clear if you look at the diagram. It's 20 feet. Anyway, that's still less than what you have today or what's being proposed today. So the issue isn't, is there a flaw in the design? And you do not want to use the Caltrans highway design capacity manual because it's for highways. You're not designing a highway here. So I know I've got just a minute, but again, you ultimately can make the decision. It's not a design flaw. It's just whether if you want more space, that's your decision. But it is a health and safety issue, and you do need to consider that. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Anybody else? Yes, ma'am.
I actually came here tonight not intending to speak, but hey, here I am. So I am a resident of the area. that we're discussing right now. I drive Fruitland a minimum of 2 times a day to work and home. My husband drives it to run errands, and he drives the truck. He drives the truck that Callisto was kind enough to come and watch, try and pass another neighbor's truck at that area. Had they tried to pass each other going 20 miles an hour, 30 miles an hour, they would have ripped their mirrors off. There's no way that they could have passed each other. They passed each other at 10 miles an hour, and we had about 2 or 3 inches between their mirrors. He's not driving a big truck. It's not a little truck. It's a Ford F-250. We tow a trailer. We're gonna have to tow our trailer through there. And I'll tell you right now, when you get there, the problem's gonna be who goes. Okay? Got 2 people? Whose turn is it to go through that intersection? Because that's gonna be the real problem. I happen to have lost some faith in humanity, and I kind of expect there's going to be some fights, there's going to be some accidents, because truly, you could not pass somebody in that intersection going 30 miles an hour safely. So, if it was a 10-mile-an-hour area, it's not. That's not what they're going to drive. I've been driving that intersection now for 20-plus years, and that's not how it's going to be. There are other problems that need to be addressed, preferably before you put asphalt down. Somebody else mentioned the drainage. I'm not an engineer, but I'm a reasonably intelligent person, and I'll tell you right now, there's gonna be flooding. If we have a bad rainstorm, there are gonna be people who lose property to flooding because of the amount of difference between the grade of the street and their yards. If you're trying to push a stroller with a kid in it, you're gonna have a hard time because you gotta get around mailboxes that are planted in the middle of a sidewalk. I do not see how that is actually gonna pass ADA. First person in a wheelchair or some type of a mobile scooter who tries to get through there is not gonna be able to without driving into somebody else's yard or pushing into somebody else's yard. Who designed a road that has telephone poles in the middle of the sidewalk, mailboxes in the middle of the sidewalk? I don't know who designed it all. It needs to be looked at. And to save money, it needs to be done before you lay asphalt down, please. If you have not been out there to look at it or to try and drive it, it's reasonably smooth right now. It looks beautiful. But go out there and try and drive it. Pay attention to what is going on. Thank you.
All righty, thank you.
Good evening, members of the council, Mr. Mayor. My name is Rob Christensen. I'm a senior civil engineer with VVH Consulting. I prepared the plans. I just want to make a couple comments here. So first of all, I've heard it a couple different times. You cannot pass 2 trucks going 30 miles an hour through that intersection. That is absolutely correct. That is what it's designed to do. It is designed to slow traffic below 30 miles an hour. I was out there myself. I know you can't see this. This is a picture of my truck and a scraper rig passing each other just fine. Here's another one, my F-150 and a water truck passing each other just fine. I understand it's narrower than what everybody's used to. I'm not here to argue opinions, but I am here to tell you that 2 vehicles, oversized vehicles, can pass each other, but you're not going to be able to do it at 30 miles an hour. Just a comment was made regarding power poles. Those are behind the curb. Those are Caltrans standard distance from the face of curb. They are not at the back of sidewalk because that would require right-of-way or easement acquisition because of the overhangs, the arms on the poles. PG&E and AT&T would have required a 6-foot easement from those property owners. So they were placed 2 feet from the face of curb, and that's a standard acceptable distance. Similarly, the mailboxes, they're not in the middle of the sidewalk. They are the postmaster required distance from the face of curb in order to provide accessible ADA access around those mailboxes. We are designing pop-outs around them so that you can travel around them safely and effectively. Drainage along the roadway, I mean, I don't know how to say it's not going to be an issue. We have a brand new storm drainage system. There's inlets. We've designed the grades so that water flows to the catch basins and to the brand new basin that was constructed. And that's what I have to say. I'm available for more questions if you have any. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? Come on up.
My name's Anita Mason, and I live over on the corner of Chardonnay and Fruitland. And I just want to tell you how extremely disappointed I am in this council and what they have done to that street, which was totally unnecessary. On that corner, let me tell you what I witnessed last Friday. I'm going to go with this lady right over here. She's my neighbor. There was a dually truck coming from Winton Wayside, and there was a sports car coming from Schaefer Way. And they came to the little roundabout that we wasn't supposed to have, but we kind of have a roundabout. They came and they faced one another off, and they were honking the horns. And they ended up, the dually won because he was bigger than the other car, of course, but they ended up flipping one another off and yelling at the window. This is what I'm going to listen to all the time because I sit right there on that corner. It's ridiculous the way that that sidewalk has come out. You guys took the sidewalk, you put my mailbox right in the middle of the sidewalk, so people have to walk all the way around it. Guess what happened Saturday? Little boy was riding by on his bicycle and he fell down and hit my mailbox. Who's responsible for that? Me or the city? Because they placed the mailbox where it didn't belong, in the middle of the sidewalk. Ridiculous. You guys did not plan this out well. My sidewalk, my driveway is slanted. It's not even. I have to go up like a hill and go down like a hill. And one side is not level, completely not level. And what happened? My grandson was playing out there and he fell. He fell, why? Because the sidewalk, the driveway's not level. It's so the water can run off into my driveway and into my garage is what's going to happen when we have heavy rain because of the way that the sidewalk is and the way that the driveway is. My grandson will never be able to drive his car into my parking lot or into my driveway because he's got a low car. So now he's forced to park out on the street with a Cobra. I've lost parking space, all because of the way you guys did the design. Absolutely ridiculous. And who's going to pay for it? All of the residents there on Fruitland. You guys should come down. You should see the mess that's out there. I bet none of you have driven down. Miss Clarissa has, though, because she's been out there and she knows exactly what it looks like. It's a disaster. You guys should be ashamed of yourself and you should do something about it before it's too late. And by the way, George Reed and I had a conversation when they took out my mailbox. I knew nothing about it. I wanted that mailbox back because my father designed that. It meant nothing to anyone else but to me, myself. It was my staple of that house for my dad. George Reed told me when he got ready to put it back in, he would put it where I wanted it. I wanted it inside the circle so that people wouldn't get into my mailbox, which they came, they cut my post in half last week. They placed it in the sidewalk, and that's not where it was supposed to go. 8 days, and my mailbox has been opened 4 times when I've gotten home because people can walk right by it, open it up, steal it, take it. It's ridiculous. You guys should be ashamed of yourself.
Thank you. Terry?
Hello, everybody. Council, Mayor. My name is Terry Gunter. I live at 3100 Chardonnay. I think the first thing I want to ask is why weren't we listened to on March 24th? We voted for no calming measures. That was my understanding. When we went into it and given options, I thought we had a clean slate. And now it turns out the bulb out was never removed. I have a picture of the trucks going through. we're that close to the gutter. We're that close to the gutter. I don't know if you guys can see this. These are the trucks passing. They can't do this. This is just unsafe in every measure. I don't know what I heard Mr. Benavides, I'm sure he's professional and he's got all those codes down and everything, but what I heard just went over my head. A bunch of mishmash measurements, 12, 10, 11, 9. I don't know what the road's supposed to be. I just know that this is not what we voted for. I don't understand how we got this far. It's an intersection barrier. It's not what we wanted, guys. All we wanted was a sidewalk for the kids and a straight paved road. And we wound up with this calamity that's just not going away for us. My husband and I went out there to look at some of the work. The sidewalks are actually already crumbling before they're even gone. I talked to the neighbor at 600 Fruitland, and he's going to have, hang on, bear with me. He's got a retaining wall that has left with, he's going to wind up with drainage issues. I don't know if you guys have actually gone out there and looked at what's going on. I know at Mr. Wood's house, between the sidewalk and what he talks about over in his orchard, we've got absolute hazards out there on this road now, created hazards that didn't need to be there. 1200 Fruitland with Mr. Wood's place, and then 1427 with the mailbox. What in the world is going on with the mailboxes? Why weren't the telephone poles put back where they put the cutouts instead? It just seems logical. We look down the sidewalk now, and all we see is telephone poles and mailboxes cemented in where you can't move them. I'm not even sure it's, something post office authorized. I'm just kind of befuddled by the fact that March 24th we weren't listened to. Thank you.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Council members, Mayor, Linda Dash, Atwater. I just first like to say congratulations. You have an anniversary this week. On the 9th of May of 2016, the City Council awarded VVH the Fruitland contract. So I figured, you might want to know that. You can celebrate later. Then came VVH employee Greg Thompson, who later became full-time Atwater employee. The Atwater City Council then later on hired Michael Hayes, who's a VVH employee, as a consultant who designed and approved his plans. That to me is kind of strange, but 9 years, folks, and $9 million plus for what? Property destroyed. And this is taxpayer money that you continue to dole out each council meeting. 800,000 here, 600,000 there, coming out of general fund, evidently. I mean, folks, I don't know if you looked at, but we're going to be broke. This company back here is going to bankrupt the City of Atwater. What has all this money done for you? It's destroyed property. It's caused these people that live out on the Fruitland area grief and stress. And each council meeting, VVH and George Reed come up and they want more money, more money. My suggestion is, why not just terminate their contracts or sue them so you can get your money back? I mean, it's just getting kind of crazy. It's our money. You folks don't even get it.
Okay, hey, no, please, we're not having that. We're not having that here. If you want to come to the microphone and speak, you're welcome to do that. Perfect. Okay.
Good evening, council members. I have been sitting here for almost 30 minutes listening to the consultant complain about the people talking, complain about we don't know anything, complaining about it doesn't make sense, he can drive his vehicles through. I'd like to know, if you had children that were walking that road and a car went on the curb and ran one of the children over,
Ma'am.
how would you feel
Ma'am.
about that?
Please direct your comments to me.
How would you feel about that, Mayor? Because I have seen children on there, cars go around, and the kids jump out of the way because no one knows how to utilize that. It's unsafe. And nobody cares about change around here. We care about safety. And that's not safe. It's unsafe. I would like to see you go down. Do you have grandchildren? Do you have children? How would you like them walking on that street? Especially at that intersection. It's unsafe.
All right, thank you. Anybody else?
Want to make sure that I heard correctly. You had an independent consultant just tell you that standard typical streets are roughly 12 foot. However, there are some that are 10.5, some 10 to 11. That's kind of a standard, but yet the same standard isn't being met. And we've got a 9-foot intersection. It's supposed to create 2 cars going 30 miles an hour, or slow them down. I'll give you that. It is going to slow them down. But even that, it's not going to fit the 2 cars. Your one car is going to have to stop quite a ways back, allow one car to go through. It's going to create a traffic nightmare. I hope that you guys take the opportunity before the asphalt goes in the next few days to actually walk that street, look at the street, look at the problems that are going on down there. I know several of you have been down there, but at this point, I think you guys need to come down more often and actually see what's happening on a day-to-day basis, because it is truly becoming a nightmare. My hope is that you guys create some form of policy and standard for the future that all developers will have to abide by, so that we don't have one developer getting away with a 9-foot intersection, yet you require the next guy to have a 10.5-foot intersection. So I hope that you guys look at developing a policy in the very near future for what we're going to do when new projects come around.
Okay. Anybody else?
Sorry, guys.
All right. That's what we're here for.
Oh, your apology, Chris, for my phone call the other day. I was a little aggressive. But everybody over here is upset about this. We have a engineering firm that I'm hearing from that is stealing from our city. Nobody's doing any checks or balances on this. You guys need to do a checks and balance. If you were good councilmen and you actually cared, you would put the entire list of funding on our website so we could see where every one of those millions of dollars on our street were spent. Yeah, or since 2016, millions. The street shouldn't cost $9 million. It's extreme. Sorry. When you live somewhere and you see a home on the corner of Chardonnay and Fruitland, her dad built that house for her. You see her driveway go up and down like that, and I just shake my head. I came from a contracting family. You don't do that. When you go in front of my house, the concrete is not straight with the property line. It actually veers out. There's a triangle of dirt, 40 feet long, that's left that I'm gonna have to fill in with concrete to make it look semi-nice. Whatever, that's out of my pocket. Unfortunately, somebody should have been checks and balancing this. The guys that took the concrete forms out, when you get the pylon stake in the ground, you take the concrete forms, you can walk up and down the street and you can see where they knocked the concrete because the contractors were lazy. So we got little divots out of brand new concrete that was beautiful. I didn't drive on my driveway for over a week because I wanted it to cure correctly. I didn't want chip outs. I got chip outs because some guy, when he pulled the forms out, chipped out around the corners. These are just annoying little things that, you know, as a homeowner you deal with. Whatever. I'm happy I'm getting a new concrete. I love sidewalk in front of my house. Both neighbors on both sides had it for years. I never did when I bought the place. I'm glad that they're getting new asphalt put in. Super happy about this, but the way it's done isn't done right. The contracting company, the guy that's overseeing it, they're out there working. Do I think they're doing a great job? Probably a 4 out of 10. They could do a lot better. Maybe people here that are responsible for the funds, maybe we need to go out and checks and balance these guys. I mean, nobody's checks and balancing. Why should it cost $9 million to put a couple sidewalks and some concrete in? It shouldn't cost $9 million. It shouldn't take this long. Maybe we should see, are people getting cutbacks? I don't know. Maybe we should have an investigation. Maybe that's a better way to spend our money. Find out who's stealing from us. Anyway, sorry guys for the excitement. You guys have a good night.
Anybody else?
Basically, I don't think this needs to be adversarial. I appreciate the work that the engineers did. I'm sure they've looked at all the forms and information they needed to. I'm sure everyone here can complain about the past or not, but what we're asking is a favor of widening that right where it's at before it gets to the point that it can't be done. It's too narrow, you know. For the most part, the other things, we may have to live with them, but that's an obvious problem that everyone here can see that lives there. So we're just asking that you would consider the fact that it's too narrow and needs to be widened by at least a couple feet, if not 3 or 4.
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay, seeing nobody else come forward, I'm going to close the public comment on that. Now it's your turn.
Thank you. And I'd like to thank everyone from the public for sharing your concerns, not just tonight, but it's been good to learn more about everything that's going on. I went out to the road. It is smoother right now than it was because it's dirt, but it's a narrow intersection bulb out, meant to calm down traffic. But let me share a few options with the council. 3 options in no particular order. So these are ideas that we're trying to come up with to find some solution here. So 3 options. The first option would be to just continue to build it as is. The second option would be to finish construction and then reevaluate and decide how we could fix it the best way that we need to. And the third option would be to pause construction and take a saw basically and cut back on the north 2 bulb outs to provide a couple more feet to the north, thereby widening that part when it gets asphalted. And doing that, we'd also need to kind of bend the street line, the center line of the street, on either side of that intersection so that it matches up and people will kind of angle over a little bit and then come back, but there will be an additional 2 feet if we did that. We've looked at some cost estimates and how much time would be delayed having George Reed out there, basically waiting for the changes, because it's not just engineering design, which is it's not a very complicated re-engineering. It's pretty simple. Wouldn't take that long, but also having to go out and resurvey where everything's going to be, and then do the demolition work and reform and pour the new concrete, which, by the way, right now it's kind of a normal looking curve on those 2 bulb outs. And if we were to shave off a couple feet, then it'll have a broken angle. So it'll be, when you look at it, it'll be noticeable. You'll see that it's kind of flat here and then it starts to curve. But that would be an option that we could do. And looking at it, we've asked the construction management team for an estimate of what that would cost. And this very rough estimate, this is not, because of the time frame of doing this estimate and trying to gather this information quickly for this council meeting, it's looking like it would be roughly $85,000 to $100,000 to do that, the rework. And it looks like it would delay the project by 2 or 3 weeks if we're rushing it. So that would be option 3. And so just going through the options again, option 1 would be to, if the council wants to keep the plan, then finish building the road as is. Second option is to finish building and then evaluate, for how to fix it, whether to work with PG&E to move that power pole that's currently in the bulb out, I think on the south side, move that out of the way. That could take 6 to 12 months based on what it takes for PG&E to come out and move a power pole. That's very typical, closer to the 12-month actually. And so it's not possible to just leave it as dirt to remove the whole, like the entire bulb out, because we can't leave it as dirt for a whole year. But we could complete the project. This would be option 2, complete the project, and then come back and make some changes, whether those are minor changes or major changes. Either way, that could be done through kind of a finish it and then we'll evaluate. And then option 3, again, repeating myself now, is to pause work and to make the changes necessary to widen the road by 2 feet to the north and realign that center line so that the striping works on that. So those are some of the ideas that we've come up with. Thank you.
Council comments. Go for it.
I'm glad that Mr. Vieira brought it up regarding the city approving the design plans. I'm interested to know who from the city approved the original plan, and then, as we all recall, there was a revised plan from the March meeting. Who reviewed and signed the revised plan?
The revised plan? You mean the one that happened just now?
Right, so in the original design, what I'm hearing is the bulb out was already in the original design. Who reviewed that plan and signed it? And then when we revised it, adding the additional calming features with which the bulb outs would be there, that those 2 bulb outs at Chardonnay would be there, who reviewed it and designed it, the revisions?
I'm familiar with some of the documents, but not all of them. But this is, you're talking about when we met with the council and the public in March, and we had option 1, 2, 3, 4, and then we received direction from the council to move forward. And so you're asking what who worked on the revised plans? The revised, I believe VVH helped us with the re-engineering for those revised plans. I'd have to look at the plans to see which signature is on them, and I don't know off the top of my head.
Yeah, I think it's important for us to know. I think it's important for us to know who reviewed those plans and who signed those plans, because as Mr. Vieira stated, VVH is the designer, but the city ultimately approves it. And so my concern is that we have Michael Hayes, part owner of VVH, as our contracted city engineer. And if Mr. Benavidez didn't review the plans, I want to know who reviewed them and then who signed them.
Okay, I can find that out for you and bring it to you.
Anything else?
Yes, so.
Let's see if anybody else has
Yeah.
questions. Okay, carry on.
So my next point is to what one of our constituents stated regarding the options that were given to us and how they felt that they were not listened to in the options. So the concern that I have is that I listened to the meeting again from March with the Fruitland residents, and what I heard Mr. Christensen say to the residents is that there was an existing bulb out in the plan at Chardonnay and Fruitland. And what I heard Mr. Christensen say was that there would be 11 feet of travel width on either side. So that would indicate to me, if there's 11 feet of travel width, that that's not including the gutter pan. Granted, he did say 22 feet curb to curb, but he also said 11 feet of travel width for each lane, which would be acceptable in my opinion. But that's not what we have. What we have is 9 feet on each side, which is not acceptable. Given the fact that the California Vehicle Code allows for individuals to drive with 10-foot wide vehicles and 2 inches with the mirrors extended, I don't see how we could say that driving 30 miles per hour in two 10-foot wide 2-inch vehicles and passing each other is safe with 9 feet on each side. I don't see how we can say that that is safe. And so I think that's where the residents are frustrated, is that they felt as though voting for option B was eliminating the bulb outs, and granted, it was stated, but it was also stated that we would have 11 feet on each side of travel width. I listened. And the other final comment that I have is that I don't understand how it is that we would reference Caltrans standards as it relates to stop signs and the warrants, and we didn't meet the warrant requirements, and we were told over and over again that if we made a decision as a city to put those stop signs back, that it could potentially place the city at a high liability. Yet now we're being told a bunch of different regulations that we could consider as a city, and maybe that might be okay. And I don't think that that is right for that to be placed on this council to make that decision. I think there are professionals in the field who should own the decisions and not place the burden on the council.
Okay. John?
I kind of want to step back. Sometime before 2016, it was decided, and from what I understand, there was way too much traffic, and the traffic was feeding down Fruitland. I'm sorry, you can laugh all you want, but I know a child was hit, and we needed to add sidewalks and slow the traffic down. So we presented, a project was presented to us that nobody liked. Too much traffic circles. Take them out. Take them out. Took them out, but we still gotta calm the traffic down. To answer, a number of people said that. I drive that thing, I'm sure not nearly as often as you do. But I drive it at least once a week to check on what's going on, what's happening. And I still am concerned about the safety. I kind of agree that it's very thin, but you know what? It needs to slow down. It slows everybody down. I like that. I don't want to see somebody jump a curb. I don't want to see somebody bottom out their car. Even more, I don't want to see another child get hurt or possibly killed. That's all.
Danny?
City Manager, I just have a question about your option 3 about stopping the project. This would be what, the second time that this project would be stopped in a couple of months, right?
Yeah.
What could potentially happen to the city with this?
Actually, let me clarify. Not stopped, but really just kind of put on
pause.
Yeah, put on
not
short pause. Yes.
Does this open up the city to anything, or should we be aware of any? Am I getting that?
As far as like our dealings with the contractor,
With the contractor, yes.
it's hard to opine on that. There was, I mean, whenever there's a big project like this with a lot of moving parts, there's kind of a different forces that push around, and the contractors, you know, they want to be paid fairly for the work that they're doing, and so they're gonna, of course, look out for themselves. And I will say that it's not typical to re-engineer a project, you know, after it's already under construction. However, you know, we're hearing from people, and so we needed to talk about this, and that's why it's on the agenda.
Brian, you got anything? Okay. Do you have any consensus yet where direction you want to go, or what direction the council wants to go?
No, not really. I don't.
I think I have a question. I wanna ask Justin. So if we stop and we continue the project as it is, and we decide to trim those, could we do it cost effectively, trim those down a little bit with somebody else doing it, as opposed to the current contractor? Is it cheaper to do it that way, or is it more expensive to go to the contractor and say, hey, we want to trim that down?
If you're just talking about expanding the bulb out to be a little bit wider, 1 to 2 feet, it would probably be cheaper to have George Reed do it. If you want to remove the bulb out, it will be much cheaper to do it with another contractor.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Mayor, can I ask one more question of our city attorney?
Certainly.
If we decided to, with option 2, and that is to finish the construction, and then we came back to make corrections to the bulb outs, what kind of liability is placed on the city if we finish that project and then try to come back and make the correction later on, knowing what we've heard this evening?
I think that, so there's design immunity defenses for cities when it comes to dangerous conditions of public property. You have to, unfortunately, it's not a simple black and white answer, just because that's why you go to trial, and that's why you have experts that argue over whether or not a condition is an obvious condition that's dangerous. But then the court is going to ask, even if it was, is the design that was the basis of whatever condition was in the field, was that objectively reasonable? And that's where you get into that's where you get a battle of experts, where, you know, one side may say that design was objectionably unreasonable, and other words would say it was reasonable. So unfortunately, what you're litigating at the end of the day is the reasonableness of the design. That's what this all boils down to. And so lay opinion, although it would be helpful for the plaintiff in terms of, you know, making the argument, it's really going to come down to the experts. That's what this is going to come down to. And unfortunately, that's why, you know, you have litigation and you have those expenses. So I can only say there's liability if the court or a jury feels like there's liability based upon the fact that some engineering experts' opinion seems to weigh in one favor or the other. That being said, you know, you have evidence. No, you don't have evidence. Sorry, we're not in trial. You have information it's been a long night. You have information that was presented tonight from an engineer that opines that the 9 feet is narrower than he would have designed it. But you have also the engineers in the back, or others that would say it's within the reasonable discretion. So I'm not trying to punt on this at all. I'm just telling you, it comes down to the expert opinion on what the engineers would say and who would be believed. If someone were to believe, though, that the design was not reasonable for the reasons that, you know, an engineer could argue, then yeah, it exposes the city to liability, but you have to get over that first hurdle first.
Well, after hearing everything, not only tonight, but other evenings as well, I'm kind of the opinion that option 3 would be a good way to go, as long as it didn't cause too much of a delay. Justin, that would not delay paving the other by the high school. This has nothing to do with the high school side. Yes, no?
That's correct. I don't know, Brian from CCME, do you have anything that you want to add to it? But yeah, I mean, unless Georgia came back and said, well, we're not going to go pave the west side because we got some equipment that we're planning on doing in the west and east. I mean, sometimes with their responses, I have
So currently
no
they're
comment.
scheduled to pave the west side tomorrow.
Correct.
Wait,
And
wait. Can you explain who you are for everybody
Ryan
else?
Kroger, CCME, principal. We have taken over help with construction administration since John
Okay.
Seymour left the city. So they are scheduled to pave tomorrow on the west side, the piece that's open, and Thursday and Friday on East Fruitland. So I was kind of waving at Justin. As you guys consider this, one of the issues that we have been having on this roadway is broken water lines. So we've had 3 water line breaks. So I would highly encourage that we pave as much as we can up to the intersection if you elect to, you know, not pave the intersection, so that we can get asphalt over it, so that quits costing the taxpayers money, because the breaks are expensive, water floods the subgrade, you gotta open it back up. There's a lot of cost going on with that, and the only way to get that structural section protected is to get the asphalt over it.
Okay, well, it's another little option 3A.
Could I clarify that?
Yeah.
Brian, you mind if I ask you a question? So are you saying that we need to pave in order to save on costs on the west side of Fruitland, or are you talking about all of Fruitland?
Well, I would cover as much as possible. There's the utilities that we've had, the breakages that we've had, we need to pave as much as possible. I would not delay paving. If we want to leave out a section due to the issue at hand, then we leave out the intersection. But that structural section, the 2,500s of asphalt, in the council's motion or whatever you guys decide tonight, I would ask that you limit it specifically to the intersection to skip over, so that we can protect the taxpayers on the rest of it.
Okay, thank you. And to the mayor's point, can I clarify what you're talking about? So when you say 3A, are you saying to go ahead with paving on the west side of Fruitland and as much as we can on the east side without getting near this intersection while we do the changes to that intersection? Okay, thank you.
That's very reasonable.
I would like to make a motion.
Are we making a motion, Frank?
Yeah, as the chair of the meeting, you can invite a motion, or if you're okay with making a motion, the Councilmember Rochester can make a motion. We've taken public comment, so it's
Okay.
there's nothing stopping it.
All right. I have possible direction from the council on my script here. So that's
Okay.
so go ahead.
I just want to say that I think what originally got us here was the fact that the residents were voicing concerns and we weren't listening to their concerns. And so despite the fact that we weren't happy with the design, I think that the residents their voices were not heard, and that's what brought us here. And then to the other points is that, you know, as council members, we should be good stewards to ensure that our tax dollars, the cities, the residents, the constituents' tax dollars are being spent responsibly, and that we are hiring individuals who are competent in their field to ensure that our roads, our engineers, the people who are doing these designs are competent individuals. And I'm very disappointed to hear that we don't know who approved the original design and who signed it and who approved the revised design and signed it. But
Councilmember Rochester?
Yes.
If I may interject. So I didn't know that you were asking about, are you talking about the 2020 plans? Because I can answer that. I didn't have an answer for the revised right here today.
I'm talking about both. From what I'm hearing, I heard Mr. Vieira say that design was completed in 2016. And so I know that phase 3 construction was approved, I believe, in 2023, maybe 2024. I believe it's 2023, phase 3 was approved. I did ask Mr. Hayes when he was here a couple months ago, when they started that design for phase 3. I wasn't given an answer, but from what I understand, I wouldn't think that they would have started that design until we were at that point. But going back to what I asked was who reviewed and approved the original design plan for Fruitland Avenue, and who reviewed and approved, signed the plans for the revision of Fruitland Avenue? That's my question.
Okay, so to answer the first one, the plans from 2020, the plans were approved by Greg Thompson, Michael Hayes, and there was I couldn't recognize the signature, but there was a fire marshal that signed it as well.
And you don't know who reviewed and signed the revised plans? Just the
I don't want to speculate. I should know that, and I'll look for that right away. But I don't know off the top of my head who signed it.
Typically, the revised plans don't get signed until after the project's done.
Okay, thank you, Justin.
That's helpful, thank you. So what I heard you say is that Greg Thompson, Michael Hayes, and a fire captain or...
Yeah, I couldn't recognize the signature.
Right. And just to reiterate, it was VVH who designed Fruitland Avenue, and it was Michael Hayes as part of the review team who approved the design. So with that being stated, I have a motion. I would ask first for staff to immediately halt all paving at the intersection of Fruitland and Chardonnay. The second is to identify all available options for cost recovery, including holding VVH financially responsible for any corrective work that has to be performed. And then third, with the written approval from the city's traffic engineer, proceed to work with George Reed to reconstruct those bulb outs that makes it in compliance with applicable design standards.
Yeah, they're written down, Janelle.
I have it written down too.
You repeat it.
I'll give it
so
to you.
Janelle, are you going to read it, or you want Lisa to read it? Yeah, if you could read it again so we're all on the same page here.
So for the first, I have halt all paving at the bulb outs, and the second, I have, you might have to reread the second.
Identify all available options for cost recovery, including holding VVH financially responsible for any corrective work that has to be performed or that is performed.
Okay, and then the third, I have applicable design standards according to the traffic engineer standards So I wanted to see if we wanted to be more specific, because he named a few. We're talking about with Jose, so.
I'm talking about our city's contracted traffic engineer.
Right.
That,
So if we wanted to be more specific in the motion, or are we just gonna allow?
I would just say that's the motion that she's made. I think the motion is that Jose Benavides will determine what traffic standards apply.
Okay.
And that's the motion as presented. Now the question is there a second?
Well, I thought we were going to look at saw cutting out the existing bulb out. Was that part of option 3 also?
that would be option 3, but I would ask that,
Are you making,
obviously, George Reed work with our contracted city traffic engineer to ensure that it's within compliance.
okay, so that may mean that the bulb out doesn't get cut out.
No, what I understood him to say was that if he were to design it, it would not be 9 feet
So
wide.
So that gives me a question, a pause here. So, not to point fingers at Jose, but is Jose the proper engineer to do the redesign work of what we're contemplating here?
I think Jose's just gonna approve the method of traffic calming, correct? Yeah. So he's not gonna be doing the actual designing. He's gonna review and approve.
I understood the intent of is that it wasn't exclusive to the traffic engineer. It wasn't to be solely done by the traffic engineer. It was just to say that whatever is re-engineered in terms of the traffic calming, make sure that's signed off by the traffic engineer. But the city still has discretion to do and what it needs to do to get that. Is that your understanding?
That was the intent, yes.
So we have 2 engineers here, and they both have different opinions. And it sounds like we're trying to condemn one for making a decision that's different than what we heard. It's a traffic calming measure.
Mayor, if I may, I would just recommend that we either second the motion and then we can have a discussion and debate, or we don't. But it's really out of order to be discussing the merits of the motion until we get a second.
Okay. Okay, so do we have a second for this? I'll second it. Is there any further discussion about it from the council? Okay.
Motion by Rochester, second by Nelson. Kale?
No.
Ambrose?
No.
Raymond?
No.
Rochester?
Yes.
Nelson?
Yes.
Motion fails.
Okay, so what is an alternate design here?
I'll just make clear that there is current direction that's pending. So it's the council's decision whether they want to provide an alternate motions, or if there isn't any motion that's first, second voted on, then staff has no choice but to move forward with the current direction. Just want to make clear where we are in terms of procedure.
Alternate, go ahead, Brian.
I'd like to make a motion to approve option 3A with the paving being stopped over at Chardonnay and Fruitland.
Second.
So just to clarify here, that would be postponing construction except for the intersection pavement, saw cutting the existing bulb out, resurvey, re-engineer. Okay. We have a motion and a second.
Can you go over that one more time? I'll make sure.
Yeah, I know.
Mayor, if I may,
Yeah, please.
that way I know that I have
Yeah,
it as well.
right.
There you go. Okay.
Okay, so the motion is to move forward with paving everything on Fruitland except for the specific area around the intersection of Chardonnay and Fruitland in order to buy us time so that we can first re-engineer those bulb outs. Second, do demolition and surveying work to find the exact points of where everything will be formed. Third, form the new concrete and pour it, and then proceed with laying the asphalt. And I'm probably missing a couple construction technical steps there, but that's the gist of it.
So we're still gonna take out the vote, the vote.
Yeah, and to be specific, it would be change the northern side of the road. There's two bulb outs, so each side would be shifted so that you gain 2 feet of asphalt total at the narrowest part of the road. So the bulb outs would be flattened on each side.
Okay.
So that we're gaining 2 additional feet of asphalt.
Okay.
And we'd have to shift the center line of the road and stripe it in a slightly different location, 1 foot to the north.
Okay.
So that each travel lane gains 1 foot of surface.
I can live with that.
So for clarity, for my clarity, we are interested in halting the pavement at the intersection at Fruitland and Chardonnay, and we're interested in having the bulb out cut re-engineered to add an additional 1 foot per side, but we're not interested in pursuing cost recovery, and we're gonna let that fall on the taxpayer backs. That's what I'm hearing.
If you can put it that way, I suppose. Okay. So did we get a second?
I'll second.
We had a motion by Raymond and a second by Ambrose already.
Okay.
Okay. Kale?
Yes.
Ambrose?
Yes.
Raymond?
Yes.
Rochester?
No.
Nelson?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okey doke. So there you go. We're going to do something different out there. So, okay. That is done with that. Now we are on comments from the public. You want to read it? You want me to read it?
At this time, any person may comment on any item which is not on the agenda. You may state your name and address for the record, however, is not required. Action will not be taken on an item that is not on the agenda. If it requires action, it will be referred to staff and replaced on a future agenda. Please limit comments to a maximum of 3 minutes.
All right, my name is Ron Phillips. I'm going to take you across town to Nabella. I'm not on Fairway. We have a situation on Nabella Drive. I want to say there's probably about 15 homes on Nabella. And behind our homes, there's a really large field. That's, and on the other side of that large field is the Santa Fe Railroad tracks. My concern is, we bought that home at the time of construction, and for, I want to say, the subsequent 5 years, the contractor was coming out like late spring, early summer every year, and he's disking basically to it, kind of as a, if not eliminate fire hazard, at least mitigate the fire hazard. Beginning last year, they haven't done that. And I reached out to the city of Atwater Fire Department, and they did respond. And they were saying that the contractor had been notified and that they were in violation for not disking the field, but the field still never got disked. Now here we are, we're in our 2nd year. That field it's tall and it's the it's an extreme fire hazard. I did send photos to, what was it, atwaterfiredepartment.org. Pardon my throat scratching. And I did not hear back. However, I did hear secondhand that I guess the city server, the server for emails now. So that would explain maybe why I didn't hear back. So what I'm asking for is, can that be addressed? I mean, it's bad. And last year we actually had a fire out there, and luckily it did not spread very far before the fire department got out there. But the smoke was so bad that at least 5 of the homes, including mine, we had to evacuate the house. The smoke was that bad. So it's, again, it's scary. Like I say, it's tall and it's thick. So I know I won't get an answer tonight, and that's okay, but please, let's address that. And I guess my concern is this: if the contractor, or I'm sorry, if the property owner does not disc the field, what can we do next? Because if they were notified last year, and they were notified that they're in violation and they still didn't do it, and they're not gonna do it this year, if that field catches fire and there's a common fence line, that's gonna be like an expressway for that fire spread. And you're gonna have at least 12 to 15 homes along that fence line.
Well, I'll have the city manager will look into this tomorrow with the fire chief and follow up on that.
I appreciate
And if you can leave your phone number or contact information with Janelle, that'd be great. He can give you a call.
All right, thank you all very much.
Rich Miller, 334 Silva Drive here in Atwater, also pastor Victory Baptist Church, 1280 Sierra Vista Street. I want to start by inviting you all out for our Law Enforcement Appreciation Service this Sunday. It'll be at 10 a.m. We'll be giving out our annual Hometown Hero Award to a police officer, a sheriff's deputy, and a highway patrolman. If you can make it, we'd love to have you there in attendance. We will be providing food for everyone afterwards as well. Now that that's done. Okay, this is Rich Miller now talking. As a resident, I've been coming to city council meetings for a long time, and I'm not sure what's happening up there, but I'm not seeing a lot of leadership. I do serve as a pastor, which would be considered like a CEO. We have business meetings. I have to have answers. Sir, you get paid 3 times as much as I get paid, and you do not have answers, and I don't understand that. You all volunteer as council members, I understand. But I'm confused. We're willing to give away $800,000 in a change order. We're willing to make another change that, just rough estimate, could cost us another $100,000. Folks, I'm not great. I'm not the best with numbers. But when I look at our budget, we're spending more than we're bringing in. So our surplus, what we have set aside, is decreasing. And with this project, it's continuing to decrease. And I'm looking at people that I love and I respect, that I consider friends, and I'm not sure what's going on. You had a great option. I don't understand why nobody sided with, well, I take that back. You had one person side with you. But it was turned down. I don't get it. Transparency is so important here. Clarity is so important here. What you all could lose is trust. And when you lose people's trust, take it from a pastor, it's hard to get it back. We need you to just be transparent. Be honest. Let us trust you. I've trusted councils in the past, and so have the people in our city, but I'm not sure what's going on right now, and that breaks my heart.
Hello, Kelly Phillips. I'm coming to address 2 things. One, the Nabella area. There's another potential fire issue. We don't have the sidewalk area. It's overgrown with weeds, and it's the city part. I mean, you cannot walk down the sideway at the end of Nabella. It's completely overgrown with weeds. So if someone could please come out there and remove that and restore our walkway. The second item is John that was here with the CLC. I'm a CLC member, and I received a grant that helped in Merced to help us to open a transitional home that, long story short, led to a jobs program because not only do they need housing, but they need jobs. And a question was asked, what happens after the 2 years? If we were to apply for this funding, what happens after the 2 years? Well, you would help to seed an organization that can continue the work. The grant has come and gone. It's been 5 years since the grant expired with CLC, but we're still doing the work in the community. So I encourage you to please, please work with CLC. It's an excellent organization, and there are many established members in Merced that can come to Atwater and do the same work, and the grant will continue to live beyond the 2 years. So thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. Excuse me, long meeting. Good evening, Mayor and Council. I am here tonight with concerns about delays to another project I'm working on in the city of Atwater. The project is to develop 86 acres of vacant residential property into 438 residential lots. The project is at the end of Crest Road, just west of Santa Fe Avenue. Planning application for a tentative map was submitted to the city in November 2021 that included a planning deposit of $29,800. It was a deposit to be worked against based on hours worked on the project. On December 15, 2021, we received comments on the project and met with the city, and the developer at the time chose to not move forward with the project. In September of 2024, the property owner and I met with CDD and planning to let them know that the project was going to get started again under a new application. We were going to start a new application. We were going to make changes to it. The previous project was only 380 something houses. So we were going to increase it to 438 houses. Between September 2024 and March 2025, we redesigned the project and we prepared a new application. On April 14, 2025, project materials were delivered to the city and a request was made that we be provided with what the current fees were going to be for that application. We got a response in April, on April 17th, that there was going to be an additional $32,472. At that time, I contacted City Manager Home and I let him know that we had previously talked, about a year before, we had talked to the CDD director and some of his staff that handles those fees and asked for a reconciling of that initial application because we felt that that $29,000 hadn't been spent because there was only one initial review done of that project and it did not move forward. I'm still waiting. Chris Holm has been getting in contact with me every week and letting me know that he's still working on it. Not sure, I mean, if I'm asked for how much is left on a contract, it'd take me about 5 minutes to pull it up. So I don't know if you guys maybe need to get some new accounting software or something. I don't know if you guys are still using paper ledgers or what's happening, but the project's been delayed. We're 3 weeks past. We've asked for fees and submitted an application on it. We have 30 days for the application to be reviewed. We're 3 weeks in and the application hasn't even been accepted yet because we have fees that we're being asked to pay again and we never got reimbursement for the original fees. So we would like a reconciling of it, but there should be a substantial amount of fees left on that. So my request tonight is the council give direction to city staff to accept our application based on the fees that would be left over. We can pay the remainder once it's a deposit. You work against it, so you're not going to use all those fees up between now and a couple days whenever we finally get a reconciling of it.
All right, thank you. Chris will get hold of you. Okay, Roger.
Hi there, I'm Roger Wood, 1200 Fruitland. I didn't talk about Fruitland because Chardonnay is not in my backyard anymore, thank goodness. But I would like to point out, when we talk about traffic calming features, we went through about 15 or 20 minutes of debate a couple of weeks ago about whether stop signs on that street were legal or not. And the real world was they've been approved there by resolution with the city clear back in 2007. And so now we're gonna build this nice big street. We're even gonna get rid of those bulbs on Fruitland, and we don't have any stop signs there. I wonder if you might want to rethink that a little bit, since you were under, if you're worried about city liability, you've been liable since 2007. That's what, like 18 years? And nothing happened about the stop signs that were on there. But they certainly are a traffic calming feature. People argue that people run them, but most people do not. And if they do run them very much, you do have a traffic patrolman now, I think, that would take care of that problem. So that's my thought on Fruitland. The other thing, it was mentioned about mailboxes, and all of a sudden, probably 10 years ago, those of us that live kind of near Laura got a notice from the post office that we were all going to have a community mailbox. And that, I am wondering whether, I have advised a couple of residents in Fruitland to talk to the postmaster about getting a community mailbox for the people down on the west side of Chardonnay, which is a simple solution. It gets rid of the problem of people stealing, and the mailman only has to stop once, but you have to walk a little farther to your mailbox. I'll admit that it's a little exercise for me to get all the way from my house to Laura, probably 100 yards or so. But that's two solutions. But the stop sign thing really needs to be looked at here if we're getting rid of that bulb. And it shouldn't have ever happened in the first place, because you were under a legal, you'd accepted liability for those stop signs in 2007 with two different resolutions. I gave them to you, and yet you voted to get rid of them. So that's all my comments. Thank you.
Anybody else?
Real quick. Thanks for keeping us updated on the water issue. What I'm asking is maybe Justin can, at some point in time, let us know. My concern is we all talk about well 16 and 18, and I know there's more wells in Atwater. Have those wells been tested for this chemical? Have they been tested? I'm not sure how the well system works in Atwater and why only those two were tested. So maybe in future council meetings or at some point in time, we can have Justin maybe give us a little presentation.
All right, thanks, Keith. Anybody else? We got this gentleman here. Yep. Yep.
Yeah, my dad's had some bad health issues after moving here in about 2018, and we're suspecting the water. I noticed some of the recent well reports from the treated water. They're not being tested for heavy metals like arsenic, lead, chromium, cadmium. I go through like the waterboard.ca.gov. Is that an accurate website to go to get the results for this matter?
Do you know about that, Justin?
Anyone?
Yeah, I can give them a separate website that we use.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, he can.
City, but it looks like the city's been focusing on free PCP, and maybe other things aren't being tested. And I've dug pretty deep.
Well, we'll do it this way. We'll have Justin, if you give Justin your contact information, he can get a hold of you tomorrow and
That'd be great.
go over all this with you.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks for bringing that to our attention. Okay, anybody else?
Okay, first deal. This concert that's going to go on out of Castle, what used to be Castle Airport is now Castle Event Center, and please stop calling my office. I don't know the first thing about this thing. You know, I'm getting information from the county in an eyedropper, and it's, none of it sounds good. But nonetheless, please stop calling my office about it. I hope you have a good time there, whoever's going, because the times for departing this thing is going to take from anywhere from 11 o'clock to 3 o'clock in the morning. Hope it's a good show, folks, and you got the next day off. And the other thing is, it's my understanding that the council is once again going to head out to One Voice in Washington, D.C. So my question is, what is agendized to be a direct, tangible benefit to the Atwater residents that, you know, we find it necessary to send 3 people to DC. My question is, what are 3 people going to do for starters? But, you know, are you going to have 2 of them hold somebody down while the other one beats the hell out of the guy? I don't know. But the thing of it is that every time, you know, the city goes off to DC for One Voice, they come back with a sack full of nothing except the bills for the taxpayers to pay for travel, food, hotel, and whatever else. It's insane. If you've got something to get over there, the guy sitting behind me right here can go and represent Atwater, can he not? Why does it take everyone to go off to this thing, and why are the residents picking up the tab for this? It's insane. And I hope that, you know, if there is something tangible that you can bring back, come back and tell us what it is. I want to see it, touch it, smell it, whatever. But so far, everything comes back with just bills and a sack full of nothing.
All right, thank you. Anybody else? Seeing nobody else come forward, closing public comment. We'll do council reports. We'll start down here at this end of the Khaleesi and work our way across.
So I was able to visit with Mr. Aaron Kahn on Fruitland Avenue regarding the mailbox. His son spoke earlier and expressed the desire for the city to consider installing the metal fixture that would hold 4 mailboxes rather than having the mismatched, not aligned mailboxes that are there. So I would just ask that city staff consider that. The other thing that I have is that I met with Christina from Public, well, I guess she falls under Public Works, but she oversees the recreation side of things for the city, just to kind of find out what she might need. And she advised that she receives a lot of support from her new supervisor, which is Justin Vinson. So I just want to compliment you on your leadership. And I'm excited to see that we have the movies in the park. I think that's a great program for our families to participate in that we have here locally. So I want to encourage all of the residents to attend and take advantage of those opportunities that the city provides. And I want to compliment Christina on, it seems that she has a true concern for the well-being of the residents of the city, and she has a strong desire to provide programming that's meaningful and not just checking boxes. So I just want to compliment her on that. And then finally, I just want to thank our Public Works Director, Justin Vinson, again, for working with a resident in my district with getting their sign, it's Aspenwood, getting the sign repaired and underway for the actual name for the neighborhood to be displayed, which was the intent of placing the monument there in the first place. So I just want to thank Director Benson for his hard work and diligence on that. And that's all.
Brian.
First thing we need to do is codify street design standards. We don't have this nightmare again. I really have nothing other than to congratulate Mark Hendrickson on the interim CEO position for Merced County. Good luck and God bless.
Danny?
Want to congratulate the Hmong community for being in the U.S. for 50 years. The last 2 weeks, I attended their 50-year celebration in Fresno, and then just this past weekend here in Atwater at the base. I also want to send out an early congratulations to all of those who are graduating at the CSUs, the UCs, community colleges, as well as my own wife, who will be graduating this weekend with her master's.
I want to congratulate Detective Mulligan on her word, Dispatcher Hunter on her word, and Firefighter Holden on his word. And I hope everybody has fun, and who this week when they attend the Luke Bryan concert. But please have a safe time when you're out there, and please be patient. Chief, you know it's going to be, I won't say that S word, it's going to be a really bad show out there when you have a whole bunch of people trying to get out of a small area. Please be patient, please be, but enjoy the show. Karen, you're saying they are going to have a great time, right? Yeah, that should be, so. And then that's all I have. Thanks.
I'll just say I'll echo Danny's comments about the Hmong 50th anniversary. I was invited to go out on Saturday to the parade grounds at the castle, make a few comments. I don't know how memorable they were, but it was just interesting that all that happened. The beginning of all that happened, the Hmong diaspora, if you will, was in 1975. I was a junior in high school, so I had other things on my mind at the moment, you know, like, is the war going to be over, and, you know, the draft and everything. But I was given a book. It weighs about 10 pounds, talking about General Vang Pao and his efforts to bring his people here. And they're very strong American citizens, very strong. So I was honored to represent the council at that event. Chris, you got anything?
Yeah, I mean, Thursday, the Luke Bryan concert, that's going to be a very big event, maybe the biggest that we've seen here. And I think there's some businesses that are really looking forward to the influx of people, and we've got traffic control that we're handling along Buhack Road, particularly as people exit the concert, to help them direct them towards the freeway so that people can get to where they need to go home. So just wanted to mention that. Thank you.
Mayor, I have one more thing. Atwater's Castle Veterans Organization is holding an event in June to honor women veterans on Women's Veterans Day, which is in June. And we're going to be, they're going to have honor all those. So if there's any women veterans in the area, please contact the Castle Veterans Organization, and we'd like to honor you. So thank you.
All right, now the council's going into closed session. We're going to adjourn to conference room A. Topic, conference with legal counsel, anticipated litigation, initiation of litigation pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.9 D4. One case. Is there any public comment regarding closed session?
I might just, I did a radio interview with the sheriff about the traffic for Luke Bryan.
This is not.
2 o'clock, they're going to start letting people in. As the day goes by, they're going to close off Santa Fe at Schaefer Road. They're going to
Right, there's Roger, that information is widely available on social media.
Oh, really? I've never seen a thing about it until I heard it yesterday.
Yeah,
Or, I
well,
mean, Friday.
it is. Anyway.
Okay, because that thing goes really late at night, 11 o'clock at night. So it's going to be interesting, and a lot of roads will be blocked off, and people.
I'll be asleep by then, so it won't matter. Okay, thank you.